Hello, this is the October video chat. Everything's a mess right now. My first announcement is I've just released a Halloween episode. It was just like 2 hours ago from the time I'm doing this. This wasn't the plan at all. There were multiple complications. I can maybe go into detail on that later. It's mostly boring technical stuff, but uh, yeah, so it's kind of a mess. I'll try not to have any big spoilers on it. Uh, in case you haven't watched it, this might be a good one to watch at night if you want. I think it came out relatively well. Let's see. Okay, yeah, I had some announcements before everything went to hell. Yeah, okay, yeah. The first thing, new game dungeon coming in a few days, really. Friday. This will be a non-Halloween game dungeon. Uh, I've already recorded the audio for it. It's mostly edited. Well, the audio is edited down. I still need to do the footage is mostly recorded, but I still need to edit it all together. This is one I was originally planning to do last month, but then I kept getting so close to Halloween. I was thinking, no, I don't want to release a non-Halloween one so close to Halloween, so I flipped it. So that should be coming out on Friday on the 4th. I think it's going to be another good one, I think. This is the one I was referencing earlier that said it has a bonus and other stuff in it. So that wasn't this one. And then most of November, my original plan, and hopefully still the main plan, is to just really try to finish off this side video I've been wanting to do for a long time now. So, but it's one that takes a lot of background work, kind of like how the games as a service, the GUI video did. It's another on that level where there's a lot behind it, even if the video itself isn't too difficult. So however, I said that was the original plan. I realized I meant to have Freeman's Mind out like a while ago, and that's still been kind of half completed for a long time now. So I'll try to work that in also, but I don't plan to have much more than that. Although I realize there is one other thing I do want to do a lot more of. I had to clear up some space on emails, and there's so many good ones I've received that I haven't sent a reply to. And it's not that I just couldn't think of anything or was trying to ignore people. It's just that I would go in these cycles, or sometimes I would get like emails in the middle of like a complete crunch where I'm working on another video and just have no spare time. And I think, oh, I'll get back to that later. And then I never got back to it later. So if you sent, you may start receiving more emails. If you might be thinking, Ross, I sent that like a year or two ago. And it's like, yeah, it's unfortunately stacked up. I'm not going to reply to every single one. Like if it was just like a news report or just a game recommendation or something, those may not get replies. But if they're more like big ones that you typed out and had a lot to tell me, I will get to those. So I really want to make a dent. excuse me. I really want to make a dent in those this month or next month. And yeah, everything's skewed because I meant to have the October video chat earlier. I meant to have the game dungeon out earlier. I guess one day of the game dungeon delay was kind of not my fault. That was just technical complications. Oh yeah, okay. I'll address this soon because I actually didn't even realize this until I saw the comments on the video. They're saying Ross had a clip in Civi 11's video about 2 years ago referencing killing time. Has he been working on this for 2 years? No. In fact, I mean, I guess I should be embarrassed to say this. I haven't even seen that Half-Life episode. I did the cameo for him since he reached out for me, but seeing more Half-Life stuff isn't like at the top of my list of things to watch. Civi, I've only seen like maybe like a fifth or a sixth of Civi 11's videos. I mean, they're great videos. That's not it. It's just that I've been busy, and I'm double. to pile on to the embarrassment, I still haven't seen. Yeah, I guess I haven't seen anybody's videos that I've been cameos in. Like I was in like what Retro Ahoy video. He did one on Quake, and then there was Mandalore reached out to me. I haven't watched that one either. So it's almost like if I know I'm in it, that that almost is like a deterrent from me watching that one first. It's like, well, I'm in that. I don't really want to watch myself, so I'll watch something else. Like, so it's not for him specifically. I did not realize Civi 11 was planning on making that. Although I just surmised that it might be possible. I thought there was a real chance Civi 11 was going to release a Killing Time video, and then like 2 days later I do, and I'll be like, damn it. So, although to be in all fairness, I feel like Civi 11's kind of half cornered the market on first-person shooters. So there's just an inherent risk that if I cover a first-person shooter, he's already covered it or will cover it. So, yeah. So it's not as a knock to the creators at all. It's just I can't. I don't have enough time to keep up with everything. So yeah. Let's see. Yeah. In fact, Killing Time wasn't my first choice. I had a few candidates and started kind of playing some of them and to get a feel of them. It's like, well, is this going to be a good Halloween episode? Killing Time was my third choice. The ones before that were Bloodnet and Noctropolis. And Noctropolis, I didn't get very far into Bloodnet. It was pretty text heavy, which isn't necessarily a problem, but it just wasn't quite, it wasn't feeling like it might not make a great episode. Noctropolis probably would have made a better one, but it just didn't feel like it had enough going for it for a Halloween episode. So, or it might be, or Noctropolis felt like it might be more of like it's like a Halloween appetizer, like leading up to like the main episode, that sort of thing. It didn't feel like it had enough spooky stuff to kind of carry it on its own. It's much more of a noir kind of episode game. So, but then I saw some of Killing Time, and I was thinking, okay, was this going to be too basic to really have an episode on? Then I saw like that had like a story and like the live action segments, and then like this was not looking like the 3DO version, so I was like, yeah, okay, let's go for it, and it ended up being a pretty good choice. So. Yeah, I'll try not to say too much about the episode for people who haven't seen it yet, because I meant to have it out yesterday. Like it, or really I meant to have it out 2 days ago. It was just, I was just working around the clock, and that's why I couldn't have it out Friday. And then Saturday, I thought I was going to have it out late, and what ended up happening was there was a bug with the codecs. So I was working with like lower quality proxy videos to do the main edit, and then what I usually do is swap that out at the end for the real higher quality footage. In this case, losslessly compressed. I use different recording techniques depending on the game. If it's like a lower resolution game, I tend to work in lossless stuff more. If it's high resolution, then I tend to record to like X264 or something like that. But yeah, I can give more details on that later. But anyway, what was happening was I was watching it, and some clips would just screw up. So like for some of the cutscenes, they would just like play through real fast and then just freeze and then repeat. I was like, what the hell? And then there were smaller things I didn't notice until I realized there were bigger problems. So some of my timing would have been a little bit off. There were one or two shots I think I could have done a better job on with the timing, but it came out mostly how I wanted. Let's see. But yeah, so it's just coincidence with Civi, though. I feel like, again, he's cornering the market with just first-person shooters to talk about. So that it's just what's going to happen, I think. And the thing is, too, it kind of depends on the person. Like if Lazy Game Reviews covered Killing Time, his style is so different than mine that I feel like it would just be complimentary. I mean, it probably would with Civvy 11 too, but I feel like out of the viewers I'm aware of, Civvy 11, I feel like we're kind of on similar turf with our styles. Uh, I mean, he's going to focus on different things, like with more on gameplay and like FPS history and stuff like that. Uh, but yeah, I mean, there's a non-zero chance we can make the same joke on something. So, and in a similar way. So, yeah, I feel like he's the like I'm trying my best not to like cross over to the same territory as he is, but it's a risk with the first person shooter. Uh, let's see. Okay, yeah. So I guess I should start answering questions. Yeah. So yeah, this month is emails and this big side video. I may not even get this big side video done for November. I'll see, but I want to throw multiple weeks at to like really try and nail it down. It's another one of these one-off ones, and this is one where it may have information that might interest some of you, you know, so that I haven't seen anywhere else. So I'm having to do original research on this one. And it is gaming related. And I don't know what I'm doing for Christmas yet. Let's see. Okay, so the first question. The latest episode of Star Trek Lower Decks covers your concerns on your drug addiction Star Trek episode. Would you be doing a follow-up episode? Do you think one of the writers watched your episode? I have no idea. I don't think I'll be doing a follow-up. There's these Star Trek spin-offs. Yeah, I haven't been able to keep track. Like, okay, there's the Lower Decks, there's the Orville, and like, yeah, there's what, Star Trek Strange New Worlds. I've been just sort of holding off on all these, and I figure, well, I'll get around to these eventually. I still need to get through Enterprise, so I'm way behind. Well, no, I did watch, because I was more curious about it, because it was Next Generation, I did end up watching some of Star Trek Picard, and I feel like the first episode, it was different, but it's like, okay, this isn't terrible, and then it got kind of terrible with the writing. I mean, I don't know if terrible is the right word. It's just, it felt just so uninspired, or just not why I watch Star Trek, you know. The first episode was sort of hanging in there, and then it just slipped and fell, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. One of the fans said before that he had a great term for what I like about Star Trek. Anomaly of the week. that's why that's what I like about Star Trek. You know, the anomalies and just the mind-bending stuff that can happen. But as for whether they watch my episode, again, I haven't seen it, so I have no idea. I will say, though, it's entirely possible that could have been completely independent of me, because I would not underestimate the ability of Star Trek fans to analyze small little nuances of like any random episode, you know, that they would want to follow up more on. Yeah, actually, when I made that Star Trek one, it was fuzzy in my memory, so I didn't really remember it. But there was another episode, I'm sure the chat will know which one it is, where they really emphasize the Prime Directive, and this guy Picard knows wants to relocate these villagers to another planet, and like the general attitude from Picard is like, well, if we're violating the Prime Directive, then there's no point. We might as well just let them all die. Or I mean, he doesn't quite say it like that, but that's generally the takeaway of the episode. And it's just, it makes you wonder, it's like, is this really that helpful? So for the points I was raising in that episode, that looks like just like like kids play to what was going on in that other episode. For as far as one that like, yeah, let's just let civilizations die. Although I feel like the prime directive was kind of came less into play for the God. Now I'm forgetting the name of it. The Star Trek episode I covered, where the one about the drug addiction, because they had space travel, and I think they were aware of other spacefaring races in that one. So, whereas the one later where Picard's just a stickler to the Prime Directive, it's like, yeah, this would have blown their minds. Having, yeah, symbiosis. I don't know, forgot the name of it. And I really, yeah, and the point I made is, it's like, yeah, they didn't want to let the people die, but if they had never intervened, they would have all burned up in the sun. So fine, why not just save the people and just like, okay, well, these drugs, they would have burned up in the sun anyway. So, I mean, I guess it would have changed the narrative with Starfleet being involved, but yeah, I think they weren't under an obligation to deliver the drugs. So, but yeah, that one, I feel like that one set up the most interesting scenario for an aftermath, and it would have been just totally different between the two planets. So you could have gone any direction with that. But yeah, maybe they did see it. I mean, but yeah, hopefully it's. Besides, if they, I mean, I don't know. It depends if it was just like a sentence or, they really went into it. If they really went into it, great. I mean, I would have liked to have seen like a follow up to that, or a show or a movie or something based on that kind of premise where the society's collapsing and then you have these interesting dynamics going on. I will say though, I learned recently about something that there's no way it was a coincidence. YouTuber, was it Joel Haver? He had this really funny skit about toilet paper bears that I saw a few months back. And apparently Saturday Night Live just ripped them off wholesale for that. And he came out with a video addressing that. And honestly, he's too nice. He's too nice. He should not have, like, I can completely understand him not wanting to get involved with that, but they just completely ripped them off. And this is a show that, like, I don't know what kind of budget Saturday Night Live has, but I mean, he's one of the bigger YouTubers now, but that's still, like, it's an even bigger entity stealing from like a smaller guy, and it was too much to be a coincidence. They were just ripping him off and doing a worse job of it. And I've been pretty disappointed with a lot of Saturday Night Live's writing, actually. So, man, what he should have done is, I would hope there have been lawyers tripping over the opportunity to take this case and sue Saturday Night Live for damages on that. I bet you could find a lawyer saying that, like, listen, we'll handle everything. You just sign these forms, go back to making your videos. Don't even worry about this. We've got this. Because it would have been such a slam dunk case. Like, and if let's say he doesn't want the money, fine, give it to a charity or something like that. Or like have all proceeds. I bet the lawyers can handle that too. All proceeds of this go to some charity foundation. He should have gone after them on principle. I mean, if it was like a smaller YouTuber doing it, it's like, okay, maybe, they're copying it, but it's not that big a deal. But when it's some huge entity coming out after you and then profiting off of it greatly, then, I mean, there's no excuse for that. Because I was thinking, if that had happened to me, if it had been a small YouTuber, I wouldn't have even worried about it. If it had been a bigger YouTuber, I might have, I mean, if they were just straight up ripping me off, I probably would have just like put out a jab at them, like a public jab, that sort of thing. But if it was friggin' Saturday Night Live, oh, no way. I would have sought out legal help and gone after them. So yeah, he's too nice. He's too nice for his own good. Maybe somebody else could talk him into reconsidering. It's not that it's damaged him that much. It's that you shouldn't. We shouldn't encourage that kind of behavior. To just for wealthy media companies to just rip off smaller people. So. Yeah, I mean, and you mentioned creative overlap. Yeah, so that can be a legit thing. That's happened to me once or twice with just coincidence lines. Or, well, actually, Freeman's Mind, I had an email when I started saying like, "Oh, you took my idea." So, yeah, there can be legit creative overlap. Like, I literally did not know that Civ 11 was planning to cover Killing Time. So, I mean, I figured there's a chance of it, but I didn't know that was like he hinted at it. So, because I haven't seen his Half-Life episode, but yeah, so that's another creative over. Civ 11's covered a game I was considering covering before, and we both wanted to cover Sin. So yeah, there can be similar premises and that sort of thing, but this was not coincidence. So yeah, I have no idea and even then, Star Trek Lower Decks, I'm just pointing out the concept. I mean, that's fine if they want to rip it off. In order for them to like rip me off, they would have had to have. I mean, for that episode, they would have had to use like the same sentences I'm using in an analysis of it, or so, like I think there was some game reviews that did that. Like I think it was like for Dead Cells or something like that. It was like GameSpot or IGN or one of those bigger ones. They did a review of it where they clearly copied this other person's YouTube review of it. So yeah, I don't own the concept of analyzing one aspect of a Star Trek episode. Again, on the contrary, I'd like to see a follow-up to that. So yeah, or the same thing. It's like if somebody, I mean, I guess I've kind of solidified the turf so people will be at a disadvantage of it. But if somebody wanted to make like doing something what I did with Freeman's Mind, that's totally fair game. Just listing his thoughts and not using like my exact same sentences unless it was something like so generic you could, like what the hell or just this stuff that's just totally generic. That's totally free game. In fact, I told people you're welcome to do that if you want. Just my only request is don't literally call it Freeman's Mind. I suggested like Freeman's Brain was another idea I had for it, or Mind of Freeman, or so. Yeah, I'm generally very forgiving about that sort of thing. And again, they wouldn't even have a case. Okay, the next question. Yeah, several people contacted me about this one. I think I made a statement on Twitter, or no, maybe I just sent a bunch of emails. Okay, during the RTX 4000 series reveal, NVIDIA showed off RTX Remix. This is a program that basically looks like a more advanced version of 3D Ripper DX. Yeah, they say it can capture not only the 3D geometry, textures, and shaders, but also lighting information. Yeah, I saw the trailer on that. Yeah, it looks like it can capture. Yeah, and they're wondering, would you consider this the ideal way of capturing these older game worlds? The capture tools look like it'll be exclusive to the new series. But is this something you would look into if you had access to one? Yeah, several thoughts on this. Then maybe I'll give some thoughts on the 4000 series. I guess my overwhelming thought on this is I'm a little skeptical on how thorough and how compatible this is until people have had a chance to like really test run it. NVIDIA has gotten my hopes up before. Like I mentioned that, what was it, like the VR Direct initiative they had that they never went anywhere with. But let's say it works. They're saying, yeah, I think it'll cover DirectX 9 and DirectX 8 games. Unfortunately, the games I would say most at risk are probably DirectX 11 and 12 games. However, that said, I mean, at risk for preservation. So if you wanted to like back up the worlds to something like Destiny 2, which is totally something I would want to do, you know. This wouldn't help with something like that. But yeah, so there's a couple aspects of it. There's one for like just game preservation, and there's another for just ripping this so you can walk around the world and port it and that sort of thing. I don't think this is going to help with the game preservation aspect because most of the biggest offenders kind of come after DirectX 9. I mean, not all of them though. But for the game world aspect, I want to say DirectX 9 might have more titles in its library than any other API. I mean, what does the chat think on that? It's somebody's saying it seems hard as a entertainer watching other folks' content, but it's just not look. Oh no, not necessarily. I just don't like watching myself and other people's content. But yeah, I think DirectX 9 might be like have more titles under that. So it would open up a huge library. But I guess my first thought is, are they cherry picking with what they're showing off? Because in the video, they show off Morrowind and Portal. And those are both very, somebody's saying DirectX 11 at the moment. I don't know. I mean, okay, well, I mean, maybe for new games, but I'm just talking like total games, total 3D games. I mean, DirectX 9 had a run from like 2001 to, onto the 2010s. But, yeah, sorry to keep interrupting my thoughts here. Yeah, so both Morrowind and Portal are hugely moddable games. I mean, those are games that you probably could have inserted ray tracing into them with enough workarounds already. Yeah, they're using this as a gimmick to try and push ray tracing. Although honestly, that's probably their best bet because I've said it before, I find the benefits of ray tracing just so minimal compared to, I mean, the visual benefits compared to modern raster graphics because they've gotten so good. I mean, I understand okay, well, I'll save some of that for talking about the 4000 series. I mean, if it works as advertised though, that could open up a bunch of titles. I mean, but I'm more curious about what about these games that are off the beaten path? So something like Cold Fear or Project Nomads, or was it that World War II game I was playing? It's not Band of Brothers, that's the show. It's something, I forget. Somebody will know what I'm talking about. I think it was on Unreal 2 engine. Well, Unreal 2 engine might be, but just stuff that we don't, or better yet, titles that are like locked down and never had. Yeah, Brothers in Arms. That's what I was thinking of. So like, let's get the stuff that just hasn't gotten a lot of attention. Like, I'm curious, does it work with that? And if so, yeah. I mean, I'm not thrilled about NVIDIA tying that to the 4000 series, but you know, sometimes what NVIDIA does, AMD copies and vice versa. So maybe if they're coming out with the remix or the 4000 series, then AMD announces their solution, or then maybe a third-party developer decides, no, we're going to come out with our version that's even better. So then there's competition for trying to rip game worlds, in which case, fantastic. So yeah, I mean, I'm happy for any progress in that direction. I'm just kind of skeptical how far it's going to go coming from NVIDIA. Let's see. But yeah, as for ray tracing, yeah, don't get me wrong. It's not that I'm against graphical development or against, or I think, oh, graphics can't get any better than what we have now. It's not that. It's just that at what cost? At what cost? Because, or also, I can appreciate a lot of people have pointed out that, let's say if your game was fully ray traced, then you wouldn't have to go through all this entire bag of tricks in order to get rasterized raster graphics games looking good, because like 3D games are almost nothing but like magic tricks to try to get it working and looking right or about right. And like it's like this, there's so many tricks involved with it that sometimes they're not standardized well and that sort of thing. So I appreciate that, but we're not really there with the power yet, or else for very limited usage. But we do have, companies kind of standardizing engines like Unity or Unreal to kind of help with that, because they specialize that. Plus, again, the power consumption for what this takes is just, it's kind of ridiculous. In fact, I looked it up. There was it wasn't an article, it was a Reddit report where this guy tested how much power, this is a Geforce 3080, I think it was either 3080 or 3080 Ti, was using with just raster graphics kind of maxing out and then turning on ray tracing. And then the power consumption difference between the two was 180 watts. And that was the last generation. So it's like, geez, that's a lot of power to just turn on ray tracing. And if you've seen the dies for the RTX series, like the ray tracing cores take up a lot of space. And this leads us into like the 4000 series so far. Like I've been reading reports about the 4090, and it's just, it feels a lot like Icarus flying towards the sun and his wings melted, because they're having power issues with the adapters where the plugs were literally melting. And I think that's been chalked up to them cheaping out on the adapters. However, two counterpoints to that. One is that I think NVIDIA has literally canceled the 4090 Ti because it was melting the adapters in-house. And that was gonna use even more power. And I think the 4090 on its own hits a power draw of 600 watts. So it's like, what are we even doing then? And if you can chalk up half of this to ray tracing, it's like, geez, it's really making me wish we could separate the two. Okay, again, I'm not trying to downplay people wanting to, who have an interest in ray tracing and want to do all kinds of things with that. But it's just does the average gamer need that, or do they want that? Imagine you could get the same card, same performance as a top-end card, but, for raster graphics, but then the ray tracing support is in the garbage, but it uses half the power, and then you have a break on the price. I think a lot of gamers might go for that. But if you notice, NVIDIA sort of cut that option out. They don't want you having that choice. So I'm kind of hoping AMD can kind of pick up the slack with that. So they're saying, no, it's supposed to be 600 watts, but it's more like 450 watts. Maybe, okay, somebody in the chat can fact check that. I'm not talking typical load. I'm talking about you are maxing it out and you're using ray tracing. So yeah, don't just find a raster graphics thing that won't hit all those ray tracing cores. Yeah, somebody's saying, okay, they've run Cyberpunk on their Series X, and there are almost no differences when you turn on ray tracing, besides a huge performance hit. Not worth it. Yeah, I've looked at some comparison videos. I was looking at one for, I think for Cyberpunk it was really subtle, or what was it, for Deathloop. You could see the differences, and then sometimes I would try to figure out which is which. I think, okay, that one looks better. And then it's half the time I was picking the raster graphics over the ray tracing one, because just because the lighting might be more accurate, sometimes the light design might have been intended for the raster graphics, and that version looks better, even if it's a little less realistic, because they had a better sense of lighting. I also looked at one for Watch Dogs Legion. I saw a comparison. And yeah, you could see the puddles were more reflective, and some water on the ground was more reflective. The cars were more reflective, but again, those are all subtle things. The biggest difference I saw was when there were large bodies of water, and that did look better on the ray tracing. I have to admit, like that it clearly looked better, but it's not like the default version looked bad. It's just that it did look more real with the ray tracing when they had him in the river and the video I saw. But yeah, it's just it's so subtle. In fact, maybe I'll show this in the follow up. I noticed in Echo, okay, there's like they have the staircases and like they have a lot of reflective surfaces in Echo, but like the staircase, I forget the name of of what the part is. It's like the railing of the staircase, and then there's like a little sort of ball at the top of it, except it was a reflective sphere. Now, they were cheating with it, of course, but I noticed as you get closer to it, you see your distorted figure getting closer to that reflective sphere, and that game did not use ray tracing. So they had a trick for that in there. So I would gladly, like, give up ray tracing ability if it meant that, like, okay, now the card uses like 200 less watts or something like that. I mean, or it doesn't get as hot, or you just stuff the area you would have used for ray tracing cores with more CUDA cores and just have raster graphics that are really screaming, So, but yeah, we'll see what AMD does. But yeah, honestly, the reports of those melting plugs, they scare me. I mean, maybe it's just the power adapters they were using, but maybe there's something else too. But even then, I forgot to check the chat for okay, nobody's okay, maximum quarter power draw, the 490, according to Tech Power Up, is 468 watts. Okay, well, I might want to see some more reports come in, because it depends on the benchmarks you're doing too, but they probably did a decent job benchmarking it. Oh yeah, somebody's saying Reflections, Deus Ex had one on the floor. Yeah, also, what was it? Vampire the Masquerade Redemption also had Reflections, I remember. Yeah. But I mean, these reflections are on a different level. But the point is, it's like I don't feel like I'm missing. Yeah, the things that might not make a bad video, but yeah, I would need help on that one for somebody to get all the samples and everything to go over. Yeah, that might not be a bad idea for a side video, to show off what makes the biggest difference to me as far as immersion and graphics. Because some things do and some things don't that much. And like having puddles that reflect accurately don't actually do it that much, but pop in from objects in the distance, that does make a big difference as far as the immersion for me. Or what is some? Well, yeah, the sort of sparkling or shimmering from anti-aliasing, that can make a difference with me, because that's like and lack of details can like make a difference. So if you actually are rendering out like the little weeds between the cracks in the sidewalk and that sort of thing, but like the actual fidelity of the textures, usually I found that doesn't make a huge difference to me for a lot of things, but or it's much more subtle. Yeah, so I get like, yeah, in shadows, it's like lack of shadows makes a difference, but the fidelity of shadows, it depends, Okay. Linus Tech Tips 490 system pulled 550 watts tops. That's with CPU and all bells and whistles. Oh, that's for the entire. Oh, I don't buy that. Oh, okay, maybe the card pulled 550 watts, but he's saying that's with the CPU. If that's like the maximum power draw for the system, maybe you could you could top 550 with even last generation, like a hungry CPU. I don't know. I'll have to research this, uh, but and again, it depends. The ray tracing are literally addition. Yeah, if you really wanted to get max power draw, you would need a benchmark that maxes out the raster graphics, maxes out the ray tracing cores, and maxes out the tensor cores. So I mean, if we're really talking maximum power draw, you know, so because those are literally physically different parts of the card, and they're not going to power them on if they're not being used. So, or else the power will be greatly reduced. But anyway, I feel like if we're having to use so much power for ray tracing, I'd rather see ray tracing as like an optional add-on card, or maybe only certain models have the ray tracing, so the enthusiasts could still do whatever they want to with ray tracing, but it's not. You don't have to upgrade your power supply if you just want to play normal games, So yeah, I'm not trying to be anti-progress with ray tracing. I'm just, again, at what cost, Yeah, and for those who think I'm just, oh, well, the technology needs to get better, you'll see, Ross, everything's going to be using ray tracing. I would like to quote NVIDIA at their latest press conference saying that Moore's Law is dead. This is like the CEO of NVIDIA said that. Yeah. Also, the 4000 series is crazy. I almost forgot about the pricing. Like, we're at a point now in graphics card history where I think this has never happened before, where the new generation costs a lot more, and the previous generation has not dropped in price. And people are going to say, oh, it's dropped since earlier this year. I mean, since the card was released, since the manufacturer retail price, it seems like the winning move would have been to pre-order the 3000 series. But hey, fingers crossed for AMD. Literally the only thing keeping me on NVIDIA cards is just the greater compatibility for anti-aliasing on older games. So like DirectX 9 in particular ones. Like if I could get the same, because there are titles I can get full super sampling or multi-sampling anti-aliasing on an NVIDIA card with an AA flag that to the best of my knowledge, I cannot do on an AMD card. So for some games, I want them to look their best, like especially older ones. That's literally all that's keeping me on NVIDIA. So maybe I could just keep an NVIDIA card around for those titles, and if I cover it on Game Dungeon, I could bust it out on a secondary system and then just switch camps to AMD if they're good. Because man, it's the power. Well, I mean, I was never gonna get a 4090. That's insane. But even like the cheap end of the 4000 series is what, friggin' $900. So it's like, geez, that's a lot to spend on a video card. And I say this as someone who literally is considering the Pimax, but the Pimax is more like a monitor. Like that can last you years and years and years and years. But whereas traditionally, video cards, they tend to become kind of outdated after a few years because things are so much farther ahead. However, maybe that is slowing down. So, and then you have inflation. I've heard we might be in a period of what's called super inflation, where it's like above 10%, like over year after year, depending on how you measure it. So, I mean, I don't know. It's like all the old rules have been torn up, and I don't know what the hell's happening now with video cards. So I was saying, again, from Tech Power Up, if you turn tensor cores on for DLSS, you draw less power. Oh, well, only if you're running it at a lower resolution. I mean, besides, if we're talking about they're trying to push AI, maybe you you could have a tech demo that would what? You could have a tech demo that maybe it uses the tensor cores for AI functions. So you have smarter NPCs or something like that. Or it's generating part of the world as you go, you know. There's some, no, not hyperinflation. Hyperinflation is like Zimbabwe or the Weimar Republic, where it just runs away. Like that's where like your money is worth less by the end of the day than it was in the morning. Superinflation is something like in between, just like sort of normal inflation versus hyperinflation. Yeah, yeah. I mean, DLSS. I guess I haven't been playing many newer games that support that. Well, I can't even run DLSS on my card, but yeah. I mean, that could be nice, but yeah, I don't know. I was because I usually don't care about these like game specific, hardware specific features because it's like, well, there's so many other games that's not going to account for it. But then for DLSS, that might be in a weird position where the most demanding games probably would support that. So yeah, I don't know. Okay, so yeah, it was just like the second question, but I had a lot to say on that one. Oh, geez, this is the one I meant to. I didn't have time to get to this one, so this is going to be completely off the cuff. What are some of your favorite spooky movies, shows, and games? Okay, well, as I met, Clive Barker's Undying for games, Phantasmagoria 2. Let's see. What are some of like the scariest games I've played? I'm trying to think of. Okay, maybe the chat will mention some that I'm forgetting. Well, the Resident Evil games. I still haven't played the newer ones. Actually, the new, yeah, I've played up. I've played one, 2, 3, and 4 original. I played like the demo of 5. Yeah, there's a lot of Resident Evil. Yeah, I guess Silent Hill. The Silent, yeah, Fear's good. Silent Hill's a little different because Silent Hill sort of, it's less. I mean, parts of it are spooky, but it's also more like let's go on a weird trip too. You know. Let's see. Then you're good, Ross. You don't need more than that for us. Well, I may have to play some more or the 2 remake. My wife, she's become mildly obsessed with Leon Kennedy, so I think she even is interested in trying out. She does not like gore, but I think she's even interested in trying out the 4 remake. But no, I'm curious. 6, 5, I don't know about. 6, I've heard maybe isn't that great. I am curious about 7 and 8 for Resident Evil. And then I still like to play 0 and Code Veronica. So, yeah, no, there's plenty of Resident Evil I need to catch up on. Let's see. That's what I was saying, Realms of the Haunting. Nah, maybe not. I like ones that like really try to scare me, I guess. But I guess I kind of don't like the ones as much where you're completely defenseless. I still haven't played Alien Isolation. Let's see. 6 is Hot Dog Water. Okay. Yeah, I feel like Resident Evil, like it doesn't help it when it goes all in on action. That's not its strength. It should, survival horror. You kind of want to be on edge, and you kind of want to avoid conflicts when you can in that game, in those series. I feel like it's scarier that way. Okay, yeah. So that's for games. Shows, I don't know. I guess I tried a while back. I tried watching some of American Horror Story, and it didn't really work for me. The Twilight Zone. Twilight Zone's great for shows. Let's see. I saw The Strain. That one was interesting. Uh, the Strain. Basically, if you, I think I mentioned it before. If you like Blade 2, the movie, you should watch The Strain, because it's like, let's just make an entire series about what was basically Blade 2, except just have it more in depth. Yeah, chat. What are some good scary shows? Oh yeah, They Hunger for games. I forgot about that. Yeah, They Hunger is pretty good for spooky game. It's a mod, but I think it's a total conversion. I'm not sure. They might have borrowed several Half-Life assets. The Blade TV series is pretty bad though. I saw that. It was okay. I've seen a lot worse than the Blade TV series. Yeah, unfortunately, They Hunger made Ravenholm less scary for me, because I felt like I'd already gotten that kind of experience. Somebody's saying Hereditary. I think I saw that movie. I think that one didn't. I tend to like ones that are just like, for scary. I like ones that are either just like terrifying or else kind of horror adventure. I think Hereditary is the one I saw. Lost Souls, the unfinished sequel is leaked. Oh, that's great. I didn't. Yeah, I mentioned that one way back. Mulholland Drive is just kind of David Lynch weirdness. Oh yeah, okay. For movies, I'll just go some off the top of my head. Well, I mentioned in the video some decent titles like Ravenous, The Descent, Session 9. That's a good one. The Shining, of course, The Exorcist. I'm trying to think of some other scary one. I like the original Blair Witch Project. Surprisingly, Blair Witch 2 is pretty good. I thought. What are some other scary ones? Yeah, there's my underrated list, which I might, maybe I'll hold off on some of that list, because I might still do that video, maybe next year. I'm trying to think of like the more common ones. Besides, the underrated ones aren't the best. The best one that I've was it Follows? That was a good one. Yeah, see, somebody's saying Jacob's Ladder again. See, that's the same sort of thing as like what? Mulholland Drive. It's not as weird as that, but that's less a scary movie and more or less like a sort of dark trip movie. I'm talking about like, the early Romero movies, Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, and Day of the Dead. Those are all great. It's not that scary, but I also enjoyed Land of the Dead. Land of the Dead is kind of funnier, but and I didn't really like his other ones. And also for remakes, the Night of the Living Dead remake is just kind of okay. It seemed kind of like there didn't need to be made. But the Dawn of the Dead remake, that's very good. That one's different. They did the impossible. They did a remake. They did a horror movie remake that's fantastic, and it's different, so it justifies making a remake. Like it's, yeah, that's like one of my all-time favorite movies. Period. The Dawn of the Dead remake. I mean, I love both of them, but like the remake is a little more visceral, I guess. Like, yeah, The Thing. That's another great one. So I was saying Poltergeist. Poltergeist didn't do as much for me. I'm just listening to the ones I think they're just great. If like you want a scary movie, you're gonna have a good time. Yeah, well, I think I mentioned in one of the videos like La Horde. That was like the French. In fact, my memory's faded on that. So, what's the official name of Blair Witch 2? Blair Witch 2: Book of Shadows, I think. Yeah, that one is a great soundtrack too. Carter Burwell. I think I mentioned it before. That's the one where I saw this kind of DVD extra on it, and the composer just went out into the woods and recorded nothing but nature sounds like sticks breaking, rocks banging together, water flowing, wind, leaves rustling. And then he made that his instrument bank and then composed the soundtrack that way. And that's a neat concept. And I could see that completely backfiring and having the music sound awful, but it doesn't. The music sounds great. So I think he used plenty of synth stuff too, and then just work those in as elements. But you can hear it in other spots where like you're like, and I realized, oh, those must have been like the rocks banging together that he used. So usually you don't see that kind of dedication and just sort of like a knockoff. Well, not really knockoff, but just a cash-in sequel. And this one's different. Like they did a different style for it and everything. What are some other good scary movies? I should have thought of it. I meant to look this up and I just ran out of time. Well, maybe the chat has some recommendations for me. I haven't caught up on that much from this year. There's some like again, I'm sort of holding off from the underrated ones. Although I've already mentioned one in a Game Dungeon episode, in The Division, End of the Line. So it's not bad. It's End of the Line is shockingly good for a budget horror movie. I would say that. Because it is budget, but it's like, yeah, they were really trying. Oh yeah, somebody's mentioning Wreck. Yeah, that's a decent one. Let's see. I don't know Noroi, and I don't know Ghostwatch. I can't remember if I've seen Lake Mungo or not. 'Cause I think there's more than one sort of scary movie that has lake in it. And I can't remember which one it is. Yeah, God, I've sort of half broken the curse. Like it seems like every Halloween since I've started making videos almost, it seems like I'm working right through it and then I just miss out. So this year I'll finally be able to do something for Halloween, like watch a movie or something. I have seen Nope. That one was all right. I think you can do better for scarier though, but let's see. But I say half broken it because I really should. I really want to get the next Game Dungeon out by Friday, so I want to make sure I'm not caught off guard on that. So maybe I'll do like a half day tomorrow. Well, those are. I listed some classics. I'm still trying to think of like. I'm trying to think of like just the top shelf stuff for the most part. Let's see. Well, those are yeah. What are like some of the scariest? Yeah, my brain's going all kinds of different places because I was thinking, I was thinking the Resident Evil movie has a great soundtrack. See, my brain's kind of branching in different areas, but just thinking, well, the movie's just kind of okay. The first one's just kind of okay. It was pretty good. The movie is great by video game movie standards, but it's as the movie itself, it's just kind of all right. But oh yeah, somebody's saying Final Destination. I didn't find that scary, but it's a fun movie. Yeah, I like the ones that kind of like. Well, actually, The Box isn't that bad for a scary movie. I mean, that's another one where it's just sort of part scary, part kind of weirding you out. But no, I like the ones that are really trying to get you. It's okay. Well, I should move on for some more. Russ, I'm curious to know if you could only bring 1 terabyte of whatever data you wanted into the apocalypse, what would you try and bring? I originally misread this question and thought if I could only just have 1 terabyte of data, what would I have? It's different if it's the apocalypse. If it's the apocalypse, it probably, well, some of my answers would overlap. I mean, books would be the easiest. 1 to 2 because I could put more books on there than I'm going to read in my life and have plenty of space to spare for a 1 terabyte drive. So yeah, I would load it up with all the books I'd be interested in. I mean, for the apocalypse, I probably want more practical stuff too, like, you know, like farming guides or like engineering things, medicine, that sort of thing. But this is assuming I have power in the apocalypse. If it's the apocalypse, maybe I'd rather have books for that sort of thing because books don't need any power. But if it's just, this is the sort of question I don't really like to think about. I like having enough space for things. In fact, I need to clean up a bunch of files. When I was doing the rendering for Killing Time, I had to do the Tower of Hanoi a bit again, where I'm moving some files to this drive so I can have this one big enough to put this render on here. And that, yeah, because with Killing Time, what I do sometimes for these low resolution videos that I have a lot of footage of, I record them at native resolution and then I edit the whole thing at that resolution. But then when I'm ready to do the final render, sometimes I'll have like other inserts that are at full 1080, you know, like video clips or 2D inserts, that sort of thing. So I want those at the higher resolution. So what I'll do is I'll put the initial footage on one track and I'll render that out at like 640 by 480 in this case. For DOS games, it can be 320 by 200. And then I run a scaler on it to upscale that in nearest neighbor until it's above 1080. And then as part of the same script, I shrink it down to 1080 using usually either like a bicubic or Lanczos filter. And that preserves like the pixel crispness the best, I've found. I mean, I could just zoom it in the timeline, but then it'd be a lot blurrier and you have like the bilinear look to it. So it pays off for some games more than others. For something like Killing Time, I was kind of undecided. But it looks closest to having like, you know, the clean pixel look to it. Yeah, okay, somebody says it's absolutely appreciated, but, well, you can notice for some things. Like, the bilinear blur can get old. And it's, yeah, because I could just scale it up to 1080 using a nearest neighbor filter, and that'll keep it nice and sharp, but then that also can make things look a little off. So I found like the scaling it up above 1080 and then shrinking it down using like a smarter filter seemed to be like the best compromise to me. So let's see. The Wikipedia database is like 20 gigabytes compressed. Well, then that would be an obvious candidate for drives. Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah. Okay, so if it was just for fun stuff, yeah, books would be first in line because, again, have all the books I'll ever need on terabyte drive. I guess maybe music and like legacy games would probably come in next because you could fit in a lot of old games on especially like console stuff like Super Nintendo or Sega. You could fit in the ROMs for that and get a lot of, like, I was assuming like we never get any more data again than what's on this terabyte drive. You can fit a ton in there to last you a real long time, but I guess you'd have a little less variety of games. So and for music, I'll probably just try and get all my favorite stuff and then maybe leave off well, actually, I could probably fit in a bunch of stuff I haven't heard yet, too. So yeah, music, compressed music. Then for games, I would probably, for games that are like bigger, you know, that might be several hundred megabytes or several gigabytes or larger, what I'd probably do is pick just my absolute favorites that I really want to have a copy of and revisit, like something like Deus Ex, be an obvious candidate, Strife. but let's say take up a little more, maybe Dungeon Siege. That'd be enough. Some are like just favorites that I'd like to revisit. And then I would probably load it up with all the old stuff that I haven't played yet that I'm interested in playing. So these may not be the best, but I haven't played them and I'm interested in them. So they make it into there. And then, yeah, and then maybe some that may not be my favorite, but have like great replay value. So that, you get a lot of mileage out of. Uh, and then I guess the movies, a lot of low resolution stuff. I would no more HD stuff. We would be flying closer to VHS style because then you could cram in a lot more movies if you like compress them down to like low resolution. Uh, I guess. Well, I guess I would maybe look in the what was it? I think X265 and codec is the best for like small sizes at the moment. I think they're working on a newer one, or maybe it's out the AV1 codec, but that's still early at this point in time. But that takes a lot of processing power to encode in X265. But yeah, that might be the best bang for your bit using that. Yeah, one thing I think I definitely would stockpile are the Mystery Science Theater 3000 episodes, because there's a whole bunch of those I haven't seen yet. And then my memory is a little blurry on some of the older ones I have seen. Yeah, actually, here's a question for the audience. What's the best place to get like decent quality copies of the Mystery Science Theater 3000 ones? Because some of them they released on DVD, and then that's great, because then, yeah, by higher quality, I mean like at least DVD. DVD is pretty good quality for something from like the 80s or 90s. But a lot of these, it's like the only copies floating around are just like VHS copies that people recorded, but then they compress them down further before putting them online, and they did it with compression technology from like the late 90s or early 2000s. So you have like a bunch of like compression artifacts that weren't even in the original video, but like you might have like a cleaner image just watching the VHS tape than you would watching these like preserved copies of it. But I haven't looked into this in like years, so maybe they got some rights worked out, and there are like halfway decent copies of these floating around now that I'm just unaware of. But yeah, because I mean, last time I checked, which was many years ago, it was like kind of like a patchwork thing. It's like some of them you get them like nice and crisp and they look great, or they're DVD quality and there was pretty decent transfer, and others it's just like it's like, well, this is from the garbage bin of the internet, but if you want to watch this episode, this is pretty much the only way you're gonna do it. So, yeah, feel free to email me about that, rodswscott@gmail.com, because for sure I'd love to eventually catch up on more Mystery Science Theater 3000. Okay, somebody's claiming 142 gigabyte torrent, claiming to be a DVD rip of everything 88 to 99. Well, maybe. Well, somebody's saying lost media saddens me. Well, the good news is I don't think much has been lost from Mystery Science Theater 3000. It's just the question of how crappy is how crappy is the quality of the stuff, of the older stuff. So that's the good. I'm pretty sure they're all out there somewhere. So. Yeah, last time I checked, like it was pretty rough for some of the earlier ones. I think by the time you get to Mike, because they switched host, the original is Joel. By the time you get to Mike, usually the quality's pretty good. Like you can get a lot of like they had official like DVD transfers or people recording it digitally or something. but it's like the older episodes of Joel. That's where it can get rough trying to find good copies of it. Oh, I didn't know this. A few years ago they found a full-length copy of Fritz Lang's Metropolis in a film museum of Argentina. Yeah, sometimes they discover like these old films that somebody just had them in their attic or something. It's great because then you could transfer it digitally and have a real, because film's analog, so you can still have pretty quite respectable copy of it. Yeah, I was noticing. I actually, until the past day or two, where I was just working around the clock. Earlier this week, I just have so little free time, but I wanted to watch something at like the end of the day when I was done working, like an hour before I go to bed. And I finally landed. I never finished watching all the Twilight Zone episodes. So like, oh, that's perfect because those are only like 23 minutes or so with commercials. And even then I can kind of skip through some parts. So that had a good efficiency rating for the limited amount of time I had to watch something. And and I noticed they must they had a really good transfer of those. I mean that must have recorded them using film because I was just shocked how sharp some of the picture was on some of those. I mean, it could have been digitally remastered, but the thing is, there was plenty of film grain in them too. So, I mean, they did a good job of it. Okay, I got way off track. Let's see. But yeah, so the 1 terabyte question is one I could come up with an answer, but I don't want to have to think about it. Oh yeah, actually, that reminded me of something else though. For the 490, if you guys want another benchmark to test out if you have a high-end card, check out. This is a game I've been wanting to run for a while, but it's like my computer's just never fast enough. For Quantum Break, I think that one's more. Try running that at native resolution because by default it just upscales the image and just blows it up, and it doesn't look so good. I think that one must have just had really bad optimization because I bet it would take a lot of power to like get it full speed. Yeah, and you have to go in the options and make sure and turn off the resolution scaling, so it's just native. So, but yeah, it's that one came to mind for the 1 terabyte question because that one would probably not make the cut, even though I want to play it. I think in order to like play the entire thing offline, like the total size is something like 168 gigs or something like that. It's because part of the game is also like an HD video cutscene, so it's almost like you're getting a show along with it, is my understanding of it. So I'm saying both Quantum Break and Control are heavy games. Control, I only ran a little bit. I have a copy of Control, but I only ran a little bit of it. The speed on Control was a lot high. My frame rate was a lot higher on Control than it was on Quantum Break. It still wasn't quite to where I wanted it to be for my system, but it felt reasonable. Whereas Quantum Break, it's like, man, it wanted power. So. I'm trying to think of like other benchmark games that are like not brand new, that like benchmark games that should not be benchmark games. It's just that they just didn't have the best optimization, so the only way left is just through more hardware. Oh yeah, okay. Well, since somebody's mentioning this in the chat, I had to get they're saying they got the liquid cooled 4090, yeah, high roller in the chat, for it to fit with his 2 capture cards. It's like, do people have? Oh, okay, well, I'll get to this one later. I think I've asked this before. Part of the problem with the technical issue I had with killing time was the software I used to capture it. Though it's complicated. I'll get to that after the main questions, because again, it's not that. But I'm revising my methods a little bit because, well, okay, I'll get to that later. Okay, somebody gave me a scenario. Oh yeah, and and on Reddit, somebody had the best reply to the 1 terabyte question, and they're saying that guy eating lunch every day and uploading videos of it for years. The perfect answer. Yeah, you'll get to watch every lunch he's ever had. Okay, so the scenario, this might be from out of a game. I'm not sure. It might be one of those, I think it was like a PlayStation 4 exclusive. It's like the story-based horror one. I forget the name of it. Yeah, you're attending a party at a mountain resort. Without warning, a blizzard forces the resort into lockdown. Nobody can come in or out. There's no phones or internet, and the storm won't cease for at least 48 hours. Suddenly, a guest is found murdered. What role would you take on? They're asking, will you try and find the killer? Retreat to your room and barricade yourself? Will you stick around in the common rooms to see what happens? Or something else entirely? Well, it really depends on the circumstances. Because most murders are done by people that knew, by people they know. Like the victims knew the perpetrator. So it's usually something pretty personal if somebody's murdered. Like the actual just psycho going around murdering people tends to be rather rare. So I would, if it's just, if it's something like I'm not really a part of, it just happened to go down here where I am. I mean, I think I'll probably try and stick with the crowd, and it depends on how. I mean, if they were like shot and it suggests that this person has an automatic weapon, it's like, I do not want to be anywhere near that. But I don't think I'd necessarily try to play detective for something like that if it happened to me. I mean, I probably, if I suspect, yeah, so I think I'd probably be either safety in numbers, kind of remain in a crowd. So if this person does not want to be found, then you have a certain safety in numbers. So I'd probably try to stick with the crowd. But however, if I felt like, no, this is just a psycho and I could be next, then I probably would go for the barricade option. And, just go in a room and just barricade the room. So if I'd probably be safe then, because it's not that they couldn't get in, but if they do get in, they're going to make a lot of noise and it's going to be slow, in which case I'll have the advantage because I can attack them from the other side of the door or attack their arms. Well, again, assuming it's not a gun. Yeah, I might still have some advantage, though, with the door. But I'd also try to question, like, well, okay, just how bad is this blizzard really? Because I've been out in some pretty intense blizzards. And it all depends on what kind of clothing I have and how far away I am from civilization. Like, if I was afraid for my life, there's a raging blizzard going on, but we're 20 miles from, like, a gas station, I might just go for it. I mean, I think I could do 20 miles in a blizzard. Or if I'm really afraid for my life, I depending on how much food I had, if it's a blizzard, I could probably just, have the snow for water if I need it. Though I've heard, thanks to forever chemicals, rainwater is safe basically nowhere now, but safer than getting stabbed. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'd say I could maybe make it upward of 50 miles, maybe 50. I don't know. Snow would slow me down, but if you're going on a road, depending how snowed in, you could actually slide down, for parts of the road, depending on the elevation. Yeah, if you're in a mountain resort, you could have a height elevation and just slide down long segments of it, or just kind of skid along. Yeah, I'm because that is one of my strengths is endurance. Like if I thought people were getting stabbed at the resort and I'm next, it's just a matter of time. But if I could hike 20 miles in a blizzard, then I can make it safety. Oh, then yeah, I can do that. I mean, it wouldn't be easy, but I totally have that within me. So, and it depends what kind of blizzard too. Like, I'm assuming we're talking like, northern U.S. or parts of Canada blizzard, not like Antarctic blizzard where like your breath literally freezes before. Yeah, not a Siberian blizzard, because I've never been in that kind of blizzard where. So I don't want to overestimate my capability. Yeah, the kind where like your breath, parts of it freeze before hitting the ground. So yeah, not that level. not Siberian blizzard. Because it could be I'm totally overestimating my ability. So I'm thinking like 0 degrees Fahrenheit or a little bit below freezing blizzard or a little bit below 0 Fahrenheit blizzard. I think I could tough those out. So, uh, see, yeah, somebody's saying embrace my caveman look. Look, I'm except for the extremities, like toes, ears, and nose tends to be what gets to me when I'm being cold. So if I can kind of cover those adequately, then I'm like a walking furnace almost in cold weather. So yeah, I can take a lot for cold weather. Yeah, somebody's saying the thing kind of blizzard. Yeah, I'm not walking anywhere if it's Antarctica. Uh, but I don't not aware of many mountain resorts there either. Okay. What do you think constitutes as a relatable bad guy, villain, or monster? Well, I thought of it. There's kind of two angles. Scratch my nose. Um, that come to mind. There's one where it's just you can understand where the villain is coming from. Where, yeah, you don't necessarily agree with their methods, but I'm actually going to do another side video on this later, or I hope to. But you get it's understandable what turned them to a villain. So it could be. So why they're doing this is it's actually completely understandable and relatable. It's just that what they're actually doing, it makes them more monstrous, and that makes them a villain, and so on. So yeah, well, I'm sure there's better examples. I'm kind of thinking of Kane, but Kane's not really a villain. He's more of an anti-hero. And if you follow like from the Legacy of Kane series, and if you follow his story, it's like he's had a lot of things thrown his way that he's maneuvering around. So you understand where he's coming from on a lot of stuff. But yeah, Kane's more of an anti-hero. He doesn't really qualify as a villain, I don't think. I'm trying to think of some others that don't give away what I'm planning to do with the. Oh, somebody said, oh yeah, that's a good one. Agent Smith from The Matrix. Yeah, you can tell. Yeah, Smith is Smith. He's trying to be accommodate. Like he understands everything that's going on here, except that like he has a job to do. And he's trying to do it, but it's like he maybe has some questions about all of this himself, and he's not trying to make things awful for people. It's just that there's this kind of, yeah, Agent Smith is a good example of a relatable villain. So yeah, that's one side is where you can understand where the character's coming from. And I guess the other is if they have a sense of humor and charisma. Like one of my all-time favorite villain moments is from one of the Austin Powers movies with Dr. Evil, where he starts doing the evil laugh, and then you see him like gesture with his hands for his henchmen, like, come on, join in, back me up here. And then they all start doing the evil laugh with him. I just love that scene so much because it's almost like, it suggests he's like really trying to be a villain here. And I love that scene so much. Yeah. I think I'm not the first to say this, but I've seen the opinion before that's like Doctor Evil is a better character than Austin Powers for the Austin Powers movies. Like those movies would not be nearly as good without the Doctor Evil character. But the I'm trying to think of well, actually, it's not really a comedy, but it's a funny moment. Again, using humor. I'm thinking in Goldfinger. You know, there's a classic line where James Bond says, "You expect me to talk?" Where he has him strapped to this table and this cutting laser is moving towards him slowly, so it's gonna cut him in half. And he's saying, "No, Mr. Bond, I expect you to die." like he kind of has a laugh to it, like, oh, like this is kind of a joke, you know. So yeah, if the villain has a sense of humor, you can kind of they can kind of charm you more with the as the audience. You know, I'm trying to think of some other villains that have like good jokes with them, or ones that are like willing to have a conversation, like sometimes a funny conversation before the conflict. Or oh man, I'm trying to blank some of them. Yeah. I'm talking relatable villains where where it kind of makes you almost want to question if you want to be on their side or not, or just you're kind of rooting for the villain a little bit. Uh, well, okay, yeah, I guess. Well, again, this is an anti-hero again, but I was recommending the movie Payback to a friend of mine. Yeah, if you want just a gritty crime comedy, absolutely watch Payback. That movie's great. Uh, where it's basically about a criminal trying to get payback on these other criminals, except he's basically outwitting all of them. And so it's kind of funny seeing that's a dynamic I love sometimes in stories is when you have a bad. It's like when you have who's been established as the bad guy being being slighted, maybe not slighted is the right word, wronged by another bad guy. So so the first bad guy is bringing forth all of his revenge and evil forces, or whatever, on the second bad guy. I love that dynamic where it's almost like what the first bad guy is capable of. So to see him on the defensive, or him or her on the defensive, or no, on the off, changing targets against the newer, maybe more powerful bad guy, that can be a lot of fun to witness. I'm trying to think I'm drawing a blank on examples of this, but yeah, that can be a lot of fun. Because you're thinking like, oh God, they've upset this person. Okay, he's really gonna come. Saying interesting. Haven't seen many villain versus villain. Yeah, villain versus villain. If it's done right, it can be fantastic. And it's like I remember seeing this and then we're thinking it's awesome, but of course I'm forgetting where I've seen this. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to think about it some more. But yeah, that can be another fun dynamic. Well, I mean, it's not quite. I'm thinking of something else, but there's definitely an element of this in the movie, like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. They definitely have like the bad guy versus worst guys element going on. So it's saying Freddy versus Jason. Maybe. I guess what it is Freddy versus Jason. They're more on equal footing. Whereas you want one where the worst bad guy is newer, but you're more familiar with the first bad guy. So you have an idea of what they're capable of. So it's great seeing the tables turn with where their wrath is being redirected. That can be a lot of fun. Let's see. Okay, well, I guess I'll do more questions. You mentioned how aliens aren't your favorite thing despite constantly running into them in fiction. What other things would you say you keep running into? Oh, geez, I didn't see that part of the question earlier. And what would you say your favorite thing is, if not aliens? Well, I'll answer the second part first because I sort of thought about that one a little bit. I mean, I guess my favorite theme in like games and movies, some that come up are just sort of mysterious monsters in general. Sometimes kind of sort of Lovecraftian themes, uh, portals to strange worlds, that sort of thing, or other realities, alternate societies. So things that are just like this is like an alternate reality, or just something that's like very different than what we know. But I like that. Time travel can be a fun one that I like. Yeah. One of the tests I did was I was thinking I really don't like kind of turn-based combat gameplay, but there's a couple games like I'm really interested in them, even though they're like that. And the two ones I thought of are, I think it's called like Stygian Reign of the Old Ones. It's like this society that's been kind of like sucked into this Lovecraftian universe, and basically you were kind of seeing how the survivors get by throughout that existence. That I'm really interested in that one. And was it BattleTech, where it's this sort of it's sort of the alternate society thing where it's this dynastic uh, conflicts of like giant mech robots, but it sounds like a lot of their mechs are just like things that have been within their families or their bloodlines for like hundreds of years or something like that. And I don't know. It just seemed real interesting from like the sort of pitch I heard about it. But yeah, or just stuff that's just kind of like mind bending a little bit. The sort of thing you would see on Twilight Zone or maybe Black Mirror, or things like that, where it's just like, or some of Star Trek, where it's just kind of breaking the rules for what's real and things are more mysterious. Yeah, I'm a big fan of mystery stuff where the rules of reality can be broken. I'm a big fan of that sort of thing. And for what I say, I keep running into. It's not necessarily my favorite. Somebody's saying vampires in the chat. Well, vampires are all right. It just, I with vampires, it's just I want them done right. I want the full vampire experience. Veil of Darkness, it did a solid job of that. It's the same thing with zombies. I like them. It's just that I want them done right, and not just kind of thrown in as a gimmick. I still need to play Eternal Darkness. Somebody's asking. I know that's a classic that gets mentioned a whole bunch. Let's see what are some other themes I seem to keep running into. I think somebody made a bingo card for Game Dungeon once, and I glanced at it, and one that cracked me up was performance problems on a decades on a game a decade or more older. Because I hadn't thought about that, but it's like, yeah, that has come up more than a few times. Or it's like a 15-year-old game and it's just chugging. Like, so. Okay, I sometimes answer questions from the chat just sporadically, but any thoughts on multiverses as a story element? That can be great if it's done right. It just depends. I'm trying to think of like what were my favorite. I feel like I'm probably forgetting some but I feel like every instance I've seen in the multiverse, they don't go far enough for me. Like I want them to go even farther. Like so. Let's see. Somebody's saying they would love to watch or play a horror with just one extremely dangerous zombie. This doesn't sound as fun to me. I don't really like the games where you're just being stalked over and over. I think I mentioned that in, yeah, I guess Martian Gothic, like in Resident Evil 3, you know, the nemesis is chasing you. I mean, that's not just, I mean, obviously there's more zombies than that, but it's just like, no, let's just cut the head off and be done with it. Like, you know, I'm not a fan of the stalking you over and over again. It just, I mean, maybe I can think of exceptions to it, but let's see. Okay, so oh yeah, and some people, yeah, somebody mentioned dwarves for my favorite thing. Yeah, it depends, but yeah, I can be a big fan of dwarves. Um, and somebody was saying if I was a dwarf, they saw me more as being like an engineer designing siege weapons for like a hilltop or something. It's like, yeah, in strategy games, I am definitely a fan of heavy artillery and like I was thinking at Supreme Commander, also was I think Dark Rain too. I used a lot of artillery. Like I love like they might be slow and really inaccurate long range siege or artillery weapons, but it's just that they just rain down hell when they hit. So if you can just keep going like boom and then just wait a few seconds, boom, I love that. And then that can sometimes spark the enemies to come after you, and then you're ready for them with your defense. So it's like, yeah, the artillery will get the job done eventually, you know, in this game. Someone's asking, I've heard of Deep Rock Galactic. Yeah, several people have mentioned that. I'll have to try that sometime. I think my hesitancy over it, well, one, I need to see how it runs on my system, but the second one is I think it got compared. I might be mixing up games or have the wrong impression, but I think they were kind of comparing it to Left 4 Dead, and Left 4 Dead isn't really my favorite gameplay style. So I don't know, but it just depends. But yeah, I'll give it a shot at some point. Somebody's asking if I was aware about the game Skull Caps. If I was, I forgot since I made the video. And so no, I haven't tried that yet. I think it was a sequel to Baldi's. I think the style looked different though, but oh yeah, somebody's asking, are you still interested in a scan manual of Conquest Earth? Well, one, somebody didn't even wait to ask. They just sent it to me via email. And what I told them was, don't even go through me. Just send it straight to replacement docs. Like, just let everybody have it, you know? So, yeah, in general, there's very little I'm going to have a problem with you just not handing it to the public in general as opposed to specifically towards me. I mean, yeah, I mean, I try to keep like future episodes a secret, that sort of thing, but yeah, just send it to replacement docs. It's So I was asking if I've considered playing the Dracula games. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of Dracula adventure games. I haven't played them. I can maybe look into it eventually. I guess I know the story of Dracula pretty well at this point. So I mean, I guess they come up with new stories, but I'm trying to imagine like do they really deliver, or is it just kind of like well, we're just sort of padding out Dracula a little more. So I don't know. It's again, it's something like Veil of Darkness. That one delivered because it had a vampire lord. He had all these abilities. Was ruling over this entire valley of people, and there were some other supernatural things. And you're trying to solve that delivered more of the experience I'm looking for. If you had the possibility to teleport yourself to a certain area or region of the world and just walk about and explore it for one day, where would that be? You can pick a few if you'd like. And where would you not want to end up? Well, I probably not wouldn't want to end up. Well, get. I, I guess lots of arid regions I probably wouldn't be as interested in going towards. But if I could do it for a day, I think where I'd want to visit some place where I probably wouldn't want to live there, but I definitely want to see it. So what came to mind were lots of jungle places. Like I would think of like maybe in the Congo, like the African jungle, or like the Brazilian rainforest, or maybe visit some of the Mayan or Aztec ruins. That sort, because I don't know if I could hack the heat and the bugs there in the long term very well. But for sure, I'd love to actually go to that kind of environment. Uh, so yeah, if I'm only going for a day, I think that would be my answer. Just tropical jungle. I think that would, because I think I would find that kind of environment fascinating, and I'd probably just be half dying from the heat and the bugs. so if it's just for a day, I think that's what I want. Let's see. Or maybe any region that I could see maybe having like some sort of tropical volcanic islands too, because again, I probably love it how it looks, but my heat tolerance is limited. It's again, I'm talking about trekking 20 miles in a blizzard, which I think I am capable of, but heat, geez, it's harder. Let's see. Uh, I'll answer some more chat questions at the end. I just want to get through more. I'm going through these slowly this time. AI art generated update. Open source Stable Diffusion recently released along with a leak of novel AI's model. See, I'm not even sure specifically what these are, how these work. I've been working so much, I don't even know what's been going on with much of the news for like the past week or two. Again, I followed the 4090 series just because it was kind of entertainment, but they're saying even non-PC power users can make brilliant art from scratch in painting and AI upscaling. And it gives a link. Have you checked out that link? No, not yet, but I definitely want to. I want to use it for my out painting of my wallpaper project, and I think from what I think I looked this up briefly, and somebody was actually using it to like combine it with Worlds for VR or something like half and half. In which case, oh man, that would be awesome, because then I could come up with like more just sort of general environments I want to explore and see what it comes up with. I think it might. Well, for 2D art, it's catching up fast. I think we'll just have to see what AI can do with 3D. I think at this point in time, humans are going to do a better job, but maybe AI could still do a lot with like what I talked about in Hellgate London, where it's like you really like this environment, you just want more, and I feel like AI could do a real good job on that. And there's plenty of environments I've seen like that in games where I just want more. So no, it's like I said, AI is one of the most exciting areas I think that's going on in software. I mean, it's just so many possibilities coming from it. Okay, after looking at the sheer terror in your eyes when hearing about the Doom speedrun, I thought you would like to hear the speedrun records for all your game dungeons, and they list them all. And it seems like half to maybe 2/3 of these have no record because they're too off the beaten path. There's some impressive numbers here, though. They have, let's see, Carnival's 21 minutes. How do you speedrun Carnival? I thought the game was longer than that, but maybe not. I mean, it seems like you'd have to. I'm not sure how you would speedrun a Carnival. I mean, aside from just having a flawless performance. God, my nose is itching like crazy. The Yeah, Zany Golf, 2 minutes 55 seconds. Okay, they're saying tool assisted. Oh, okay, okay. That I didn't see that earlier because I was thinking that might be one of those where sometimes a speed run, what they'll do is they'll just get the best time for each level and then stitch that together. So it's not really an organic thing, and you get much smaller times then because, God, you would have to be a mini golf god to get that in 3 minutes. Uh, let's see. Yeah, this is another one. Quarantine, 6 minutes, 23 seconds. They must know a way to cut straight to the objective that I was unaware of. I think Fallout, well, several games have that, but I think Fallout 3 had something like that where you can, somebody speedran it really fast. Let's see, I'm trying to look at some of the more remarkable ones. Yeah, well, that one's interesting. Okay, they mentioned Dungeon Siege 1, 2, and 3. They're saying, well, for one of them, it's just under 2 hours. And then apparently they're saying 2 is 54 minutes. I don't know. It's not clear which ones these line up. I'm not sure how you'd speedrun 2. But that always kind of floors me when games like Diablo is an example of this, where these are games where there's a real grind to them, and you need that grind in order for your character to be powerful enough to just even survive like one hit on the later levels. So it always kind of fascinates me when people find workarounds for that, because it's like you need to level your character up, but how do you do that in such a fast amount of time? So yeah, I know somebody's done it for Diablo, so they've beaten the game in just like a few minutes or something like that. And, you know, I can understand where you could get to the exits really fast, but it's like the bottom levels of Diablo, I mean, yeah, one hit, you're dead. So how do you level up or protect yourself enough for that? There has to be a gimmick for it. But yeah, I'm always really impressed by those because it's like they figured out something else for just even how to move around in games. That's actually an issue I have with a lot of MMOs where I'm really interested in the world, but I'm not that interested in that particular MMO gameplay. But to even survive a lot of like the farther zones, you need to have your character a certain level just to survive a stray hit from a mob. So it can be kind of a tug there. But I know there's others that there's other RPGs that you're totally not supposed to be able to do them that fast, and it's kind of mind-boggling that you're able to. Whereas others of these, it just sounds like you've really figured out how to get to the objectives fast, you know. Yeah, they have Deus Ex Invisible War in 18 minutes, 58 seconds. They must have had some trick for that one, I would think. I could see you rushing past a lot in that, but let's see. This one I feel like has room for improvement. Contraption Zach, 51 minutes, 54 seconds. I mean, what takes a long time in Contraption Zach is figuring out the puzzles. So if you know the puzzles, maybe some of them do take a while to pull off with hitting the buttons and everything. I bet somebody could break that one. Contraption Zach. Yeah, there's another one that's impressive. Realms of the Haunting, 17 minutes, 18 seconds. That's, they must figure out, maybe not. Maybe if they just beeline totally towards the objectives, you could do that then. Yeah, and you're skipping every cutscene, that sort of thing. It's, some of these I'm not surprised by. Others it's just like, wow, what did they do? Yeah, but yeah, it's Contraption Zach. I would be surprised if you know the solution to every puzzle, if you can only do it in 51 minutes. I bet you get 18 minutes. Maybe I'm just forgetting to. I'm just glossing over because he doesn't move that fast. But I bet you get around 20 minutes if you just know exactly what to do, But again, I could be underestimating how fast he moves because you do move a little slowly. So okay, your video about Stadia being shut down is among one of your best dead game news. But here's my question: we all know that cloud gaming is pretty much dead on arrival since the service will be inevitably shut down. But how do you feel about? Well, see, that's what scares me is that it may not. It could linger for a few years and then bring down a lot with it. So it's like if I just felt like it was no risk at all, I wouldn't be worried about it. They're saying, but how do you feel about Steam's eventual demise and the possibility of our game library disappearing? And somebody's saying I mentioned that in old Dead Game News, and I forget which one, and I forget how. I think it's the one where I was showing footage of Lawbreakers, but I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, possibility of our game library disappearing. It's it's still a risk. I don't take any game I have on Steam for granted. However, it's one of the safer options, and it depends on the game because Steam has everything. It has stuff that has no DRM at all. It has a lot of stuff that just has Steam DRM, and then it has stuff that's like 5 layers of third-party DRM mixed in with the Steam DRM. So, in general, though, I feel like hey, that's the other thing I need to do. I was making progress on it earlier this month, and I got so busy with the Halloween videos. I'm really making my push like this month on the French consumer rights group to try and get the courts to look at what's being done to games. Like the Dead Game News episode I did, Valve versus France. I'm embarrassed how long it's taking me to get around to, but I was really making a push earlier this month, and I got sidetracked. But yeah, I got to get back on that. I said I was going to do something this year, and I mean it. Like I want to kind of, I basically want the request on the way to the French courts, or at least as much as I can do on my end, like by this year for certain. Because I remember that because the courts in France decided Valve was not a gaming service because of how they set up like the ownership and of things. So they are selling goods, was their interpretation. So got to run with that. It's not that I'm going after Valve specifically. It's just, in fact, Ubisoft is probably the better target because that is a French company that's in their neighborhood. So, and they have, Ubisoft's killed off a few, but they have a ton that are at risk. So, yeah, but in general, I look at all this stuff the same way. If there's a game, can you run it without, let's say you've downloaded it or installed it and it's all patched up and everything, can you run it without an internet connection? If the answer is no, is there a crack to run it without an internet connection? If the answer is still no, that game is at risk of being destroyed. It's pretty much that simple. Because, if it connects to his server, then that eventually gets shut down. And if the game goes with that, then you're dead. Now, the thing is, I don't worry so much about a lot of games that legally there's no way to run it without like an internet check. But if you're willing to use like a crack or the pirated copy, then the game still works fine. I don't worry about it much then because, and then again, I know the game's going to survive, so it's the ones that just, nope, they never got cracked and they're keeping it on a server and you have no expectation at all that the game's going to make it. So with something like Steam, if that were to go down, we would lose a lot of games. However, they're paranoid archivists that would be able to bring a lot of them back up in some form, I think. So, okay, well, I may skip. Well, okay, they're saying, what sort of food do you usually eat with your current living standards? It's less about my living standards right now, more about just my, you can probably see it in the video, my skin just is reacting to something, and I don't know what it is. So yeah, somebody's saying beans. I have not had beans in a long time because that's one of the things that reacts. I think I mentioned it before that there was, like, I did all as much research as I could find on this, and I found nothing except there was one YouTube channel that had the only, it was like the only person with advice that helped. It was, yeah, Rob Stewart, the guy who looks, yeah, not the singer. Yeah, Rob Stewart, not Rod Stewart. Uh, and he looks like a kind of like a red-haired Viking kind of guy. And he talks, and basically, I mean, he has all these sort of like health diet advice, but the thing is, he focuses on skin issues. And his job is he works as sort of an advisor for people with skin issues. So he's kept records on all these people where they try different foods and they say what works for them or doesn't with their skin health. And so he passes some of that along. So he actually has experience, he actually has field evidence for everything he's saying for like what foods make you react or not. So I need to hear more to that. So things I've been eating are chicken, zucchini, cucumber, carrots, though I'm wondering if carrots maybe shouldn't be on the list for me. Sweet potatoes. What are some of the other ones? Well, that's a lot of what I eat just fell into those categories. I guess some lettuce can be okay. It's not what you think. So, oh yeah, mushrooms. Mushrooms I can have. So yeah, it's. I don't know what's wrong with me. So somebody's saying it could be a mineral thing or water quality. I have no idea at this point. I think it is some sort of allergic reaction because it happens so fast after eating. And I remember I had blood work done several years back, and they said I was really healthy, except that there were showing signs that I was allergic to something. Like something in my blood was showing I was really acting like I was allergic. So, but yeah, I mean, he said olive oil is okay, and it is. So I remember trying. This was at a time when it felt like anything I ate, I would just react to, and so I tried like, what was it, just zucchini and olive oil, and I tried just that, and I didn't flake or anything. And it was just like it was like a friggin' revelation when that happened. So he, yeah, if you have skin issues, definitely look at Rob Stewart's channel. Probably won't mean much if you don't. I mean, it comes across as pretty clickbaity, but he's the only person who had advice I saw that worked. So, and I just need to adhere to that more. I was kind of breaking my diet a little bit leading up to this. I was having these kind of sugar-free cookies with maltitol. I've been off actual sugar since March. So but I've been kind of cheating occasionally with these sugar-free cookies. And those definitely have some things in them I shouldn't have, even though I've been off them for about 48 hours. So, and I occasionally have pizza too, but I've been trying to adhere more to the diet. I just got to stick to it. But yeah, not particularly fun and tasty meals, unfortunately. Just let's see. Okay, some more generic questions. I'm going to skip some. Some of these have been asked before. What are your thoughts on brain-computer interfaces in gaming? Do you think they might take off? How'd you like to see them used in games, if at all? I mean, I have no idea. I think the real people that would benefit are people who have some sort of disabilities. Like, so it's a lot harder for them to move something or, uh, and that could they could play the game much more effectively then. I mean, I don't know. I'm sort of skeptical on it, other than basic things, but maybe that could take off a long term. I'm just kind of skeptical on that for how effective it might be. But okay, somebody's talking about the skin thing, but yeah, I mean, if you don't have skin problems, you probably shouldn't follow this diet. There's probably better diets you can have. Uh, yeah, I guess I don't. There's a mod that allows the player to regenerate magicka with a Muse meditation headband. I mean, I figure this stuff is a certain amount of this stuff is still guesswork, I think. But I mean, yeah, obviously, if I could control the game with my mind, that could be a lot of fun. And I would think the more complex the game, the better your payoff would be. So something like a real complex real-time strategy game would probably be best, because I could just think like, all right, train 5 troops. Okay, move to this part of the map. All right, send the patrols over here, but take this path, winding path. So I'm like making the waypoints in my head or something. I'm not sure we're ever gonna get there, but there's a lot about the brain we don't know. But I mean, maybe I'm not much of an expert in this sort of thing. So, uh, but at the same time, even the rougher versions, like again, let's say like you don't have the use of your arms or something. Well, then, yeah, then the brain control interface that could be a real upgrade, for all kinds of things, not just gaming. So, yeah, I can totally see. I can totally see that having potential, but I'm skeptical about how much progress it'll make. Oh, games that have impressed me on the writing quality. I think I've been asked for that, but because they mentioned Deus Ex and the Legacy of Kain games. I'm trying to think. Well, I liked Phantasmagoria 2's writing. What are some of the Silent Hill 2 had good writing. Actually, I mean, it's kind of abstract, but it worked. I mean, I still haven't completed Planescape Torment, and I haven't played Disco Elysium, which everyone's raved about. So I guess I'll have to play it eventually because so many people mention it. Some other games with good writing. Because I'm thinking ones that just like hold up to other mediums. It's kind of a short list. Let's see. Again, I'm drawing too many blanks. See, that's the problem. Some of these I'm not good at thinking of stuff on the spot, but if I think focus on them a long time. Somebody's asking in chat, favorite revenge story. I think there are better ones, but Payback is still way up there. That one's hilarious. Yeah, it's. Let's see, what are some other good revenge movies? I'm drawing too many blanks right now. I've had to think about this one earlier. Because there's like revenge movies that are just kind of a lot of revenge movies. I think they're just kind of okay. I mean, like the Death Wish videos. Well, Death Wish 3 gets really over the top. So that makes it more fun. But because a lot of these action movies aren't necessarily okay. Commando I think counts. Because he's getting revenge for them kidnapping his daughter. Yeah. Because a lot of these really impressive action movies that feel like a revenge movie, they're not actually revenge movies. They're just a man on a mission, kind of thing. So, but they can be very similar. Um, I'm gonna say Payback's my favorite until I think of another one. Oh yeah, somebody's saying Max Payne. Yeah, for a game, Max Payne is great revenge story. Let's see. So we're saying Punisher was all right. Yeah, Punisher didn't hit the same high for me. Punisher is it has potential. The potential's there. Potential's there for Punisher, and I feel the same way about Spawn. For like, it didn't quite hit it, but the potential's there. Oh, okay, The Crow. The Crow's way up there. Yeah, The Crow's solid revenge movie. Let's see. I still need to see Berserk. I made a deal with a friend of mine who's much more into anime that I make Berserk could be the next anime I watched, and I think I saw the first episode, but I didn't get far into it. I don't watch much anime. Mad Max, or the first Mad Max. Yeah, because, yeah, the second one isn't really a revenge movie. It's, maybe. I don't know. I'm trying to think of Road War. The first Mad Max, I don't think is that great, actually. Road Warriors, where it really gets good. I've forgotten a lot of the Count of Monte Cristo. Revenant, well, Revenant has things going for it, but revenge story, it's not really the best. What really stands out to me in Revenant are the music and the visuals. John Wick, yeah, it's all right. I mean, it's an impressive movie in its own way, but just John Wick doesn't hit the same. So, like, I don't have the same sort of connection to the character that I do with other revenge stories. It's more like, here is just a super competent, like, kind of a little over the top assassin just taking everybody down. But let's. Yeah, John Wick is a very video gamey story. Yes, it is. It is, and that can work. But you want ones where you like really. I think the best revenge stories are the ones where you can really connect with the character who's undergoing the revenge. Yeah, I've seen the second Raid movie, and they're saying it's revenge. Raid's very impressive in terms of action, but again, it didn't really give me that sort of connection with the character. Like, I kind of want a revenge movie to be like fun, actually. Okay, that's not a bad candidate. Somebody's saying Django Unchained. Yeah, that's not a. Yeah, so Tarantino has made a career out of revenge. Yeah. I think, well, actually, Inglorious Bastards kind of works that way, because what was it yeah, because Brad Pitt's character took it personally. The Nazis in that, it was. Somebody's saying Kill Bill. Kill Bill wasn't really my favorite, but I liked Inglorious Bastards and Django Unchained more. Yeah, Tarantino has a lot of good revenge stuff. Yeah, and Inglorious Bastards has good revenge moments. Yeah, because it was personal for him. I mean, because that was both. It was revenge and the man on a mission kind of movie. Yeah, somebody's mentioning Hardcore Henry. I don't know if Hardcore. I think Hardcore Henry sort of turns into a revenge movie, but it's not it's more just one thing after another that he's just thrust into the middle of for the most part. Let's see. What are other good revenge movies? Yeah. I think you got it right. Tarantino has solid ones. Yeah. Well, Payback's still a pretty safe answer. That one's quite fun too. Okay, I'm gonna skip some more. Okay, well, I'll answer this. People are, oh, when you do a video that involves a crossover like bopping with Tom White, how do you two handle compensation for each other's work? As in, do you pay the video guest a flat rate, agree to a percentage of that video profit with them, or just not worry about it? I think literally every cameo and thing I've done, I just don't worry about it. I figure it's their video, so that they we collect the profits as to whoever's video it is. So I mean, I've appeared on one of Tom's where. So I mean, I guess yeah, I'm always happy to just not have to deal with more accounting if I can. The So I guess the only exception of this was when I did. There's a period, especially during the machinima sort of nightmare, I was taking a lot more voice acting jobs, but that wasn't really like a cameo. That was more just uh, me just acting out roles specifically for their video, and then I took some payment for that. Uh, but yeah, I think for pretty much every single appearance I've had elsewhere, or people who have appeared in my videos, it's kind of pro bono. Just there's no money involved with that. It's just kind of a social thing. Let's see. Okay, I'm just looking through the questions. Oh yeah, somebody's saying, how do you think you would how do you think you would handle having access to full dive VR? I'm not actually sure what that means, but they're saying one that fully accessed all your senses, allow you to seamlessly interact with the environment. Well, I think I'd love that, but I'm not sure we really have that technology. More broadly, how do you think humanity would adapt to having access to such technology? I won't lie, it could end up dystopian, but it's certainly one of the nicer dystopias. Yeah, I think I would love it, and I would just try to have a balance between that and the real world for just at least for physical health. Um, but yeah, I think we don't really have that. We may not ever really have that. I guess you get more and more approximations, but the closer you get to just the full thing, that gets vastly more expensive and specialized. So you wouldn't be able to just run that on any sort of game. Or that's actually part of my mentality of intentionally keeping my expectations low for VR, where I still get the wow effect by having most of my field of vision in full stereoscopic 3D. If I'm seeing that, I get a wow effect from the game. So by having this sort of 3D theater mode in my face, that there are so many doors that opens up. So I don't necessarily need like the haptic touch stuff or being able to interact with the world in every way, that sort of thing. I mean, yeah, to me, that all that stuff is icing on the cake, but looking like it's there if I'm looking right in front of me, that gets me so much, and that opens up so many doors for different games. I mean, I remember a while back, people were talking about a killer app for VR. For me, it's VorpX, because that gets me hundreds of games in stereoscopic 3D. So but yeah, I mean, I'm sure I would assume, and it's just a complete bonus that I seem to get less motion sick from that than like native VR, but maybe I just need a better set. I'm not sure. I think I have no idea why it is, because in terms of the field of vision, it's not like I'm looking through this far off window. I mean, it's right up in my face, but like the very edges aren't encompassing my view, and also the perspective doesn't follow with me. So if I look, so if it's like being in a theater, if you were to turn your head, you don't see the image anymore, or if you turn it a little bit, then it's not exactly lined up with you. So I'm thinking maybe those subtle movements of it not being perfectly aligned, if I just kind of look to the side a little bit, maybe that keeps my brain, that sends signals to my brain that oh, this is not completely real on a level that it doesn't really hurt the immersion, but it's enough to get a lot more mileage out of my motion sickness. So, oh yeah, maybe I saw this one, and thankfully somebody had a reply similar to what I would have said. Uh, Ross, regarding games preservation, I've never heard anyone make that argument. Could old games that have not been updated for a long time and are running on today's online PCs be a security vulnerability? I mean, if it's offline and it passes a virus check, I mean, a virus check, then I would say no. I mean, and like the older ones that used to be like security vulnerability, like I'm thinking like the original BioShock, I think came with, it was like, it was debatable as to whether the DRM was a rootkit or not. Well, that same DRM probably wouldn't work on a modern system anyway, and I think it's been patched out anyway. But it's like the stuff. But yeah, for a while there were DRM. I think Star Force was another DRM thing that it was like bordering. It bordered on being a rootkit. I think that's mostly been kind of patched out. But even then, it's like you can run that in a secure environment. Hey, you know how you run something like that so that's perfectly safe? Run it on a computer that doesn't have anything of value on it, and disconnect it from the internet. Perfectly safe, you know. So, I mean, for online stuff, it's like, I mean, I guess you could connect to an emulated server, but even then, where they put in malware with it. But even then, if the server software is available, you could just run that locally, or just run it from a trusted source or something like that. You know, where this is like a commute. This is like, say it's an MMO and they're running their own private server that you connect to. Well, let's say this person has been like a fan of it, knows everything about server networking, and they're a major fan for like 10 years. So the odds that they're gonna inject something are very low. But, and even that, it would be such a fringe case that it's like, it's not, it's totally not something that you need to worry about. It's kind of like, oh, it's like worrying about your taxes after you've won the lottery, you know? I mean, maybe it's not quite that extreme, but it's like you're worrying about something that's very likely to not happen. It's pretty much the case. Let's see. If the movie does well and you receive job offers because of it, would you consider taking a job? How good would a job offer have to be for you to take it? Well, I'm not really worried about that, but I mean, that was kind of my mentality for when I went to work for Machinima for a few months. Is the reason I went was because I would have access to more resources where I could kind of make more of my movie ideas that I probably wouldn't be able to do just kind of soloing it. So it would have to be something like that. It's like, okay, it's like you can make a movie of or another machinima or whatever of a script you really like, and we can help you out more with the animation and like getting these models for you, or have live actors, that sort of thing. So I have resources that just would be a lot less feasible on my own. So yeah, I could see that. And for I mean, it's not like it would have to be like Hollywood level production. It's just that like, can we do a good job for what we're working with? You know, that'd be like that. If it's a job I didn't really like, then I almost want to say it would have to be like just something I could do it and then like almost retire from it because it paid so well. And I'm not worried about being put in that situation. So, but yeah, I mean, and again, it wouldn't even have to be my script. I would have to just like the script I'm working with. So, the movie gonna have Ryan Gosling? No. Unless he wants to anonymously audition with everyone else, and I don't even realize it's him, then sure. But I imagine he can get better roles than my movie. So yeah, I'll get to that. That's oh yeah, this last game dungeon and the next one, those count as part of the countdown. So there's like what 8 or 9 more to go, and then I'm going in hard on the movie. What do you think of first Half-Life's final levels? Seems like everyone hates them but me. Well, actually, when I first played it, I remember being kind of wowed that we actually do go to the alien world. I guess I didn't see that coming. I thought you were going to escape and maybe have a big boss fight and then get out of there. But nope, we went there. So I was intrigued by that. I didn't really like the platforming that much, but it wasn't that big a deal. Some people really hate it. I mean, it was okay. I mean, from a gameplay perspective, and it was pretty great from a sort of atmosphere perspective. So I don't know Metal Hellsinger. So sorry, I'm unfamiliar with what that is. Yeah, someone's asking if I got into Marathon because of the cameo I did in Marathon Affinity. No, I'm not, because the maze, like, the maze like layout just kind of turned me off pretty fast. And again, he asked me for a cameo, so I gave him a cameo. So it was. Okay, somebody's saying they bought a game on the Humble store only to discover that the key was locked behind a mandatory linking of accounts, and they didn't warn him of that. This was for Uplay. And so he's saying it's only after he paid. And I want to get my thoughts on that. I feel like stuff like this, it's more. I'm trying to think of how to explain it. This is more. It is a consumer rights issue, and I feel like if it's sort of like a more middle tier issue than something like the game destruction and losing your game. So I feel like no matter what the resolution is, it doesn't get to the biggest. Okay, I feel the way I feel about this is the way I feel about many topics in like a lot that are many popular topics in a lot of politics. It's that even if we resolve this to everyone's satisfaction, this doesn't get to the bigger issue. Because like, okay, like what the solution to this will be to properly warn you that this is connected to the Uplay account, and so you should not buy this unless you're doing that. So one, it's like, why the hell do we even have to fight to have that kind of warning? Two, I feel like it shouldn't. For me personally, it's not that big a deal to have something linked to account to a given service, like whether it's Uplay or Epic or Steam or GOG. But three, that becomes a big deal when that also means there's DRM. That means when it shuts down, your game goes with it, or when the server shuts down. And to me, that's everything goes to all my focus and my brain, everything goes to point 3. It's like, this is going to kill the game. If we draw all this out to this conclusion, if we go down this path, it's going to kill the game. So it's like, I just can't unsee that. So all these other issues, it's like, they just kind of get lost in the fog for me. And that's why I just stay laser focused on the let's not kill the game. If it's a pain in the ass or it's an inconvenience or you don't like that service or something, that's so much less of an issue to me than we're destroying the game, and getting paid to do it. And this hasn't been tested under the law. So it's like, it is a valid issue. But again, one, you shouldn't even have to fight for this in the first place. It should just say it outright. And two, even if this is resolved, then that doesn't necessarily save any games. So it just, I'm all, I'm definitely for pro-consumer measures like that. It's just, I want to go for the, I want to go for the ultimate. I don't, like, I want games stop being destroyed. If we have that, I can tolerate so many other things. We ain't gaming, I mean. So, yeah, so that's how, yeah, that's kind of my thought of that. So, however, there's other people who take up this sort of thing with like a fiery passion. And like, I think Jim Sterling can be kind of on the, he's done a lot of videos like that, that, I mean, and I guess the late Total Biscuit did, but I'm sure there's other people out there that are kind of more focused on like just any consumer issue and will carry that to its full conclusion. So it's, it's, I'm not the right guy for that. I want games to stop being destroyed, and I don't want to just talk about it. I want like an actual path to victory or an attempt to victory on that. So, in fact, I don't even, believe it or not, I don't even really want to be talking about that. It's just that it gets to the point where I can't ignore it. So, yeah, I would be, if I never did another Dead Game News again because this problem got solved, great. I can make more stuff like Killing Time or, you know, more original stuff like Civil Protection or something like that. So that's not my calling. it's just, it just bugs me more than anything else in gaming. Somebody's asking your favorite class in the first Diablo. I mean, I guess I like playing Warrior, but the game sort of, there are huge gameplay advantages if you play as a sorcerer in Diablo 1. But yeah, I played Warriors first, and I beat the game that way, but the sorcerer is a lot easier. I guess if you play Hellfire, if you like Warrior, then you should play Barbarian and Hellfire, which is basically the same as the Warrior, just with better stats and no magic. So, how do you feel about alien life? Are you a believer? Do you closely follow ufology studies or mysterious cases surrounding the phenomena? No, I don't really follow it very closely. As for alien life, I mean, that's one of those things where I have no idea. Because what it comes down to is we really need an understanding of how the formation of life works to really make like an informed conclusion on that. Because, I mean, we've tried to replicate conditions where, you know, have the primordial ooze and subjected to the experiments. And best of my knowledge, we haven't been able to create life. So that's because the universe is incredibly big. Like, it's just we can't even really process it mentally. So if there's anything even close to being able to form life elsewhere, then Then if there's even a chance, then the odds that there's alien life or maybe even sentient life, I'd say are very good. Just because it's so enormous. Like, it's just, it's like, you know, we talk about lottery odds. Well, if you can buy a few million tickets to the lottery, your odds are much better, you know? So it's kind of that principle. However, it's a real unknown as to how the formation of life actually happened. So if maybe we are the 1 in quintillion chance of that happening here. So if that's the case, it's like, well, maybe there's not aliens. We don't really know. We don't have enough information. I think what you can do, though, is like, maybe some astronomers know this, where they can figure out, like, what's the likely distribution of, you know, in Star Trek, what they would call M-class planets, you know, the planets that can support life. So it's like the right distance from that star, has like the right ranges of temperatures, has some gases that or minerals that like life tends to use, that sort of thing in them. And they might be able to figure out like what the rough distribution of that is across the universe and take an educated guess as to like what percent of the known universe could maybe even support life as we know it. And then, but again, from there, it's like, that's the big thing. So I really don't know for as far as alien life. Now, as for it visiting Earth, I, again, I also don't know, but I tend to, I found this saying tends to work out so well for so many scenarios from Carl Sagan, what was it? Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. So I guess if you really have the receipts, then yeah, maybe aliens have visited. But if it's something that could be explained very easily for other reasons, or just we're not sure what we're even looking at, then maybe it might need more to go with it. So, but yeah, it's a real unknown as for alien life. I mean, it's entirely possible to the best of all of our knowledge. I think to really crack it, you have to figure out how the formation of life started. Like that's if you can get an answer to that, then that answers if they're probably aliens or not. So, yeah, I think I may have mentioned this before. I had an idea before that, you know how like the Earth is especially for sub speed of light travel, we're very far away from like just any, system or planet aside from what's in the solar system. I was almost imagining like Earth. I was thinking how, we have so many microbes and bacteria and everything just in the air. That's why food will just spoil if you leave it out or just, and there's like this really long evolutionary history of just life being hyper competitive with different forms. I was almost imagining like to like parts of the rest of the galaxy, Earth is considered a quarantine planet because our life is just so incredibly uh, invasive and like hostile and competitive that it's like it's just too dangerous to like even like set foot on Earth because like I'm imagining like other life and other life forms aren't nearly what we are. So we would be the equivalent of like a galactic invasive species, just from like the microbes and everything that are on us. Yeah, like I think even like the human gut absorbs like all kinds of bacteria like shortly after birth or something like that. So I thought that could be a fun concept that just, we're just what we're, this is considered normal to us, but maybe to the rest of the galaxy, we're just like the most extremely, we'd be like I think it's called like a death planet or death world in Warhammer 40K. It doesn't mean that you can't live there. It's just that the conditions for it are so incredibly hostile that it may as well be considered not like deadly. It's like you're playing with fire going to that planet. So, uh, 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 yeah, I guess that was sort of the concept behind War of the Worlds. We didn't defeat the Martians; the viruses did. So. Do you feel there's a legitimate concern of many modern movies and TV shows going down in quality because of a lowering of audience expectations over the decades, whether from flashy effects, lowering attention spans, stagnating developer creativity, or studios rushing their artists and products? In terms of looking realistic, attention to detail, fidelity, good CGI and animations, etc. Do you see the same thing occurring in modern games? In what ways? Why or why not? Maybe for some AAA games I do. I haven't played as many of those. I tend to just gravitate towards whatever theme interests me. Occasionally it's a AAA game. A lot of time it's like kind of mid-tier studios or indie games. I guess there's less mid-tier studios now, but I think there's still some. Um, yeah, like it seems like a lot of AAA games, they're kind of sometimes they just monetize it just to a ridiculous degree, or it feels kind of dumbed down, or they're just trying to deliver you like this sort of basic product with like a whole lot of polish on top of it. But for indie games and others, not at all. We're exploding with good games. I mean, check my games list, which I need to update. It's probably a month or two behind. Yeah, that's why I made the games list video. I'm overwhelmed by promising games. But after movies and TV shows, yeah, maybe. I mean, it's not just like, because sometimes you think like, oh, when you were younger, it seemed like it was better. And it's just you aging. It's like, no, I've seen like they'll do things differently. And like one of the things I was watching a little earlier this month, because I was just trying to watch something short, was the X-Files, because I never got through all of them. And I was watching one episode of that, and I was thinking, this is still pretty damn good. Like, it's like, I really feel like this show's not wasting my time. There's like good atmosphere. And it's like, a lot of these conversations seem relevant and like build the plot, or they're interesting. And it made me think like, maybe there's more writing discipline when your episode has to be wrapped up by the end of the episode than if it's something that can go on for 12 episodes or something. Because, I mean, it's not that there's not good stuff, and like, well, actually, I'm losing a lot of hope on a lot of movies. Again, we're talking average. There's always a good movie out like any given year, but it's, when I compare like good movies of the past, it's just, and then I rewatch them. See, that's how I know it's not just all in my head or just me getting older. It's when, say, I watch a movie I hadn't seen that's like decades old, or one I just forgot all the details of, so I wanted to watch it again. And I'll think like, wow, this is really good. I was actually thinking the other day, I forget how it came up, but I realized I forgot a lot of The Dirty Dozen. I remember thinking that was a really good movie. So I'm thinking, yeah, I want to rewatch that movie again, because it kind of faded in my head. From what I remember, that's a fantastic kind of man on a mission movie. You know, it's just, so, and if you look at it, the style is very different. I mean, it's like we're aiming for like a more kind of mature, you assume your audience can think, you know, and just follow adult concepts like here. But yeah, if you ask for the why, I think if I were to just take a guess, I would think a whole lot of it has to be just Hollywood politics. So it's like the person who has pull in Hollywood, or this producer wants this, and they've worked with this guy, or these guys are names that have proven return on investment, so they go with them, and what they're producing isn't very good, but it's like okay, and then you just kind of get a continuation of that. I think there was an old quote by Frank Zappa where he was saying that under, like, this is talking about music, but I think it's the same concept, where he's talking about like in the old days for record labels, that the producers were just kind of these sort of stereotypical cigar smoking guys who just want to make money, and they didn't know much of anything about music. They just knew about business. And so when a new artist would come out with an album, they'd be like, what is this? Well, I don't know what this is. Just put it out there, see if it sells. And if it sells, all right, great. Give them a better contract. That sort of, so they're not even trying to like figure out what's good music or not. They're just there to make money and just seeing what sticks. And Frank Zappa, this is like decades back, he was saying the newer executives come in thinking they know what's good, and they're the authorities. And maybe they know some things, but maybe they don't really know what's good or what everybody wants or that sort of thing. And he was saying we were better under the old kind of ruthless record labels because they weren't trying to interpret what's good or not. Whereas if you have a producer who doesn't really know that much about what good film is, trying to dictate all these things, then you're probably going to end up with a worse movie or a show. And it's, yeah, somebody's saying the whole music industry is corrupt. Always was, always has. Yeah, I believe that. But at least they were doing something in a way that more good stuff could get through that corrupt system. Is the thing. I mean, I doubt the film industry is much less corrupt. Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. That's even a vernacular. Was it Hollywood accounting? That's when you make a lot of money, but then you switch the numbers around with the accounting to make it look like you lost it, so people don't get paid. Like I think there were actors in the Harry Potter movies who just didn't get paid because, under the contract and how these budgets worked out, it just didn't make any money. You know? Like, yeah, I'm sure Harry Potter just couldn't bring in any money. Yeah. So, yeah, there's all kinds of corruption in that system. But so, so what I think happens is you have producer or Hollywood politics or whatever, so that real good directors or real good writers, I think those are the two things in particular, just don't get in the position to make good movies, and the people who are better at playing the politics game do. And you end up with the movies and shows that you're seeing. Because like I saw a movie, I think it was earlier this year. It came out a couple of years ago, but this was a modern movie, and it was not written like a modern movie. It was written like a movie I kind of expected from the past, Knives Out. And this was a very well-written movie and well-directed and everything. And I feel like the fact that that got made means it's kind of an exception to the rule. So it's like something happened so that a good movie got made within the system. And so that made me think, okay, so they still can make really good movies. It's just they need to, I think it's just the people doing the politics are better at choking out anyone who just kind of cares more about making a good movie. So is what. Yeah, if you like a murder mystery with like real dry humor to it, it's great. Yeah, I'm a fan of dry humor if it's done well. So I think it's just internal politics. And I think the reason you're seeing less of that in games is because the barrier to entry is a lot lower for games. I mean, with movies, it takes a certain amount of resources just to film something, but even then, it's like you can have trouble getting even breaking even just through distribution methods. So I mean, like the movie I'm going to make, I am not making this. I expect to make this at a loss. Like I'm not. I mean, I'm not even going to charge for it. So it's. I just want to make a good movie. So it's. But if I had, I don't think I could make the movie if I had to get a return on that. I mean, maybe I could if I just muscled the hell out of it with like merchandise. I mean, like sort of selling hard copies and digital sale. I don't know. I would really have to. I would really have to hustle doing it, and even that, I'm not sure it would be a sure thing. And even then, I wouldn't want to do any of that. I'd rather just more people see the movie for free. So, but if you really have to, but I'm going to have a lower budget than probably lots of amateur live films. So because it's got, a whole lot's going to be done just putting stuff together on a computer, and my time I don't have to pay myself by the hours. So yeah, it's now they're mentioning for movie CGI getting worse. I think it probably just depends on the movie. And the thing is, that's like the least of my concerns. I will take a movie. I think I mentioned last time that the Dune movie, no, the Dune miniseries from early 2000s was pretty good. That movie had really basic CGI. I mean, we're talking like good 90s computer game cutscene CGI, all right? But it was well written, the acting was good, and the direction was good. So that's what makes the movie for me. So I think the CGI is just something that people point to because that's easier to point out. You know, you can more objectively gauge whether something has good CGI or not. Whereas it's much more difficult to point out the objective aspects of good writing because there can be exceptions to almost any rule. And you have to kind of make the case that collectively this is worse writing because of like, it's far more subjective for something like writing and direction. And there's, so it's a lot harder to point out, but I will take a movie with just slap together CGI but that has good acting and writing and direction, which you don't need a great budget for. You just need the right people, and over something with like really polished CGI and just a garbage script, you know. So okay. Okay, so I noticed this one in the chat. How do you feel about viewers having to pay to see 4K on YouTube? Well, I guess that's kind of annoying for my movie because but I will put it like this: you'll get there'll be torrents of the movie also, if you want to download a 4K version. That wasn't something I was really using much of anyway, so not too big a deal, and that's maybe not the most unreasonable request. However, it seems like from a psychological standpoint, they should have started with that. They never should have made 4K an option if you weren't going to pay for it in order to make you feel like you're having something removed, which you are. And the other thing is, what worries me the most about that is what's next. You know, okay, sure, maybe it's 4K, and then in the future it's 1080. You know, which I do use more, or they need to, or they just decide to like, okay, if a video gets over 1 million views, then you have to pay to see it, or something like that. If it's a big, who knows what so I'm worried. So that doesn't affect me yet, but who knows what's coming next? I mean, yeah, I have the way I feel about YouTube, I think I've said this before, is every time I hear about some big negative change, it feels like the fact that I've been on YouTube as long as I have, it feels like I'm someone who's survived multiple rounds of Russian roulette. So it's like, okay, click, nothing happened. Okay, I guess I'm gonna survive this time. So that's how I feel about the changes to YouTube. So I don't assume the next round I'm safe, or any people I watch are safe. You know, so it's a mess. I guess the upside is I have heard of them banning more and more people, so that it could be the competitors are maybe getting a little more traffic to them. So the more actual competition can emerge that YouTube isn't a de facto monopoly, the better. So maybe they can drive people away. They need to figure out ways to make YouTube more annoying, but not just completely kill everyone. so that it incentivizes people to go to other platforms, I guess. Did you ever consider at any point becoming a director and/or writer for live-action movies, shorts? And was your current output of animation, machinima-style shorts, and media analysis always your focus? Do you think you can handle making live-action projects now? if you had the time and money to do it. Yeah, for sure. I mean, the whole reason it's kind of the reverse. The whole reason I got into machinima was because I didn't have enough like reliable actors or resources to do like more amateur like live filmmaking. Whereas I can just sort of slave away myself animating characters or getting to do stuff and put it all together for just a shoestring budget. Uh, yeah, I mean it's a difference. It's a different way of doing things. I mean, some things are much easier, and some things are trickier or more expensive, and it can be stressful in different ways because, like with well, I mean, Pigeon Hunter. Look up Pigeon Hunter on my channel. That's I wrote and directed that. It's a simple short. I had a couple other smaller things I did, but it's yeah. I mean, it's almost like an inverse to digital filming because in digital filming, like it's easy. Like if I want to have like a jungle or a big mountain or a plane crash or something. Whereas if you need to do that in live, that takes a lot more work. Although I realize maybe green screening can be kind of the best of both worlds for like really limited resource directors, you know. Well, even just costumes for actors can take a lot of doing. Oh, my wife is knocking on the door. Yeah?
Yeah, I think you should be slowly finishing, Rob.
Okay, I'll slowly finish.
A lot.
My wife gets concerned when I do these too long, so.
Oh yeah. And your pizza arrived.
Okay. Yeah, I'm more of a treat tonight since I finished the video. Though I have to do another one by Friday, so. But yeah, no, I could totally do live stuff because with actors, it's a lot easier for some things, like for like get the kind of performance you're looking for, because you can say, okay, we'll try to act more surprised at this part. And it's like, okay, we're not this kind of surprise, but like this kind of surprise, and give a scenario you're looking for, that sort of thing. Or sometimes give like a model for them. Yeah, it depends on the different actors. Like when I was doing like voice acting for Civil Protection, like when I was working with Craig or Fred, for Craig, he works a lot better if I just give a model of what I'm looking for tone wise. So if I'll try to like act out the part myself, and then he does it, and he does work pretty well with that. But another one, it works better to just give him the context of okay, pretend you're in this situation, and like this happens. Like that's the sort of tone we're going for. And so that works better for him than if I was to try to do it myself. So there's different styles for different people and how they can handle it. Should show Magda that icon in the chat. But I guess one of the downsides besides the budget for acting is live acting is you tend to have like small windows where you can get everything done for your scene. And it's like, you can try to prepare for it, but man, if something goes wrong, it can kind of threaten a lot. Or if things start falling apart, you start getting worried if you're going to be able to finish it, that sort of thing. So it's just a very different style, but yeah, for sure. I mean, I would need a lot more kind of technical experience with like what kind, like I would need advisors or dedicate people how to handle lighting better and like some of the camera shots. Like, okay, like if I wanted to move in here, what kind of lens should we? I wouldn't know the vast majority of that, but so I would need help. But yeah, for general directing, if I had resources, I'm sure I could do it. And plus, if I was kind of starting out, I think I would intentionally want to keep like the resources pretty low and like, well, here, why don't we stick to ideas that we don't need like a big budget for and lots of thing, because I would want to assume I'm going to make some mistakes, so I want the stakes to be a little less high, that sort of thing. But I could scale to a lot of different ideas. I mean, if you're doing comedy, you can do comedy on just any kind of budget. It's you, you need the right scripts. So. Okay, let me. I'll try to. I'm just gonna skip some more questions. How far do you jog? Well, on days I do jog, I usually do about 3 miles. I can do a lot more, but it's like I do it primarily just to keep my head clear, and secondary benefit is for health. So I feel like I don't really need to do a lot more than that for either of those reasons. So I don't. But if I had like a race or something, I could do a lot more. Or if I really needed to run for some reason. So. Why do you do so? Okay, I thought I addressed this one. This guy seemed like I might have been bugging him. Why do you do so many jokes that require modifying the map? At first, it seems like they were shortcuts that skip puzzles and other things that just slow everything down, or would be easy in real life with something as simple as being able to do a pull-up. I find it funny because it was unexpected. By Half-Life 2, you made map changes like the dam and added extra segments to maps that only made everything longer. I get that ramping off the dam and the airboat would probably kill you in real life, and that's a stupid idea. It's just that in earlier episodes, Freeman commented about a lot of things at Black Mesa that don't make any sense with real-world logic. But now puzzles and set pieces are often being changed the way they should work. Between that, how Freeman yells at pretty much anyone but Kleiner, it just seems like you're resentful of the series as a whole. No, I'm not resentful. It's just, well, I think there weren't that many situations that they've been changed, and I don't actually have future plans for more changes. And I'm not resentful, but that shouldn't be confused. But I'm not cutting the series any slack either. There's a difference. Resentful means you have a bone to pick with it, and I can maybe if you think of a couple games like that, but no, not with Half-Life. It's just that I feel like Half-Life 2 especially got just kind of hyped to the moon and back. And for me, it was a good game. And so if I'm just approaching it from just as like a game, the fact that I'm not kind of praising it for the moon and back or just following into the beats that everybody expects me to the entire fan base to go with means that, like, that doesn't mean I'm resentful of it. It's just that I have my own approach to it. Now, that said, Freeman can be quite resentful, but I don't think that's really a change from the first one. I mean, Freeman is just kind of borderline misanthropic. I mean, it's kind of, but I feel like has a lot of justification for it also. So yeah, Freeman's gonna seem resentful. So, and the changes I did in Half-Life 2, I just felt like were good touches. Believe me, I don't have like this big grand vision of how Half-Life 2 should be changed, everything. So don't worry about that. And plus, there's certain things that have to happen in the game anyway that I can't really get around. So it's thing. Also, the things that were, here's the difference. Like in Half-Life 1, most of the commentary on the map was just kind of cryptic. It was just like, why do we have this room with all these boxes hanging suspended? This is weird, But he was trying to escape the facility. This is literally the only way he can go, so he's got to deal with it. So it kind of worked with that. And you can kind of believe Black Mesa had all these kind of throwaway government defense money spending projects that God knows what they were thinking, So it kind of works with that. Whereas something like the dam, that was during a calm section of the game, from the vanilla game. You're surrounded by hills. You could go a different way. And the game's just kind of pigeonholing you into going this way. And this isn't the result of some sort of like weird way that the society's being run or the company or something like that. It's just the game is trying to push you this way. A real life person could go another way. So it's kind of like, it's almost fourth wall breaking what they're doing. And I don't like doing that at Freeman's Mind. So that's kind of the reason. And also, like another one where we had that area back behind the barn. it's like Freeman is desperate to find out what's going on at that point. And he sees the G-Man. It's like, okay, finally, and he goes up there. And then the G-Man's not there. So I think Freeman would have spent more time looking for him. So it kind of made sense within the context to me. It's just like, whoa, where is he? Like, he's not so quick to take no for an answer on that. So I felt like that kind of embellished what the game was already doing, in my opinion. So that was my reasoning for both of those. Like, again, I don't have all these changes planned out. It's just that, but my memory is a little hazy on some of it too. So it's, yeah, I'm sticking with it so that this feels like real life for Freeman. Freeman is, from Freeman's perspective, he is not in a video game and he's expecting this weapon to be awesome or this person to do this event or the aliens to act this way or something like that. No, all he's going by is his in-world experience. And, or maybe he doesn't know the Half-Life lore, all right? So I'm looking at it from that perspective that, Freeman does not know the Half-Life lore. He knows what has happened to him since he woke up and late for work. So that's what I'm going with. And sometimes that can really fly in the face of what the game wants you to do. But I feel like that kind of can call to maybe some of the shortcomings of the storytelling for Half-Life 2. So it's not me being resentful. I'm just trying to adapt to what was given to me in Half-Life 1. So, and going with it the way I have. So it's, this is me too. Somebody said in the chat, Freeman is as much confused as I was when it comes to Half-Life 2. I am also tapping back for part of Freeman to thoughts I first had when I first played Half-Life 2, because I was kind of confused and not really sure what was going on also. So why should Freeman know much better? So, okay, I'm gonna skip some more questions, just because, I was actually planning on going a little longer this time because it had been so long, but if my wife is concerned about me going so long, I don't want to go too long. Let's see. I'm just skipping some more. And then I still don't understand oh yeah, I should have arranged it by points. Will you ever consider creating a Game Dungeon episode looking at a bunch of games suggested or submitted by fans? Maybe. The ones where I cover a bunch of different games aren't necessarily much of a time saving, so it's like if I'm more in the mode now where, besides these if I'm spending a lot of time on it, it's like I really want to do it, or else this is something fans really want, or because I'm really trying to carve out more time for the movie and trying to make my way back to the movie. So, yeah, same thing for somebody's asking about tutorial videos. I'd rather just like tell you what I was doing in chat. I don't have a burning desire to teach, so. Different people are better suited for different things. I'm glad there are people who do like feel real satisfaction from teaching. The way I look at it is like I want to kind of go different places with my projects, but I'm happy to just dump information that other people can sort out and find more useful and make something out of. So I'm fine with that. So like real low effort or answer specific questions, that sort of thing. So kind of low effort information handoff. Let's see. So I'm saying, when did I start planning the movie? It happened when I got more serious about it was when I did the announcement video, which has been too long ago, and which is why I'm going a little crazy, not getting more done on it. So that's why I'm trying to sort of wind down the more regular videos just for a while, just until I can get a real foothold, so I can be kind of working on it much more regularly afterwards. Okay, I'm skipping some more. I guess I'll mention the video problem. Okay, real quick, I'll mention what the video problem was that I had, just in case this is helpful to like one person. For lower resolution games, I tend to like to record losslessly. So I usually use Fraps often for that, or if it's DOSBox, it supports like a native recording method. For this one, like on PC Gaming Wiki, they said Fraps had problems with like the community release, so I didn't want to use that. So I used Bandicam, which has actually gotten better. It used to have problems with like the color management. I've actually seen lots of recommended game recording, game recorders software that just totally screws up the color space. I mean, so it's like, I mean, yeah, if you're not sure what you're looking for, you may not notice it. But if you're expecting the reds to be red and not just an off orange, then yeah, you're gonna notice it. And so Bandicam used to have that problem. They fixed it. And I also did some, so that's what I used. And I used this codec, RGB UT. Yeah, I think it's called like UT codec. And it's sort of served the test of time for me for stability and not screwing up and working out all right. Yeah, because I've used Huffy UV in the past, and then that one would crash in Premiere sometimes. So it's like, oh, nope, I don't like crashes. But, I mean, it wouldn't crash during the recording, but it would crash when I tried to like render it out in Premiere. So what I did was, this footage is still pretty big. So what I usually do is I encode Xvid AVIs. I tried to keep the format the same, like using AVI if I'm swapping out an AVI. And I used Xvid AVIs to have every single frame be a keyframe, which means you can scan through it just instantly. You know, if you scan through some videos, there's like a delay. That means there's less keyframes and it's kind of building the image as it goes from earlier points. Whereas everything's a keyframe, it's just instant, but it takes up more space and the quality's not as high, but I don't need that for editing. And then what I usually do is once I'm all done with my edit, I swap that out with the high resolution stuff and then render it. And this time when I did that, it worked for like 90% or more of the clips, but then some were just so screwed up. I was like, what the hell is going on here? It was mostly towards the end too. Like earlier, I noticed an off segment where I typed bingo in the chat, and then in the video, and then I noticed when I did it again, it went way too fast. I thought, oh, that's weird, but you know what? I can leave that. That's not a huge issue. But then later during the ending cinematics, I had already uploaded it to YouTube to let it process. It was still private. And I'm just watching it to make sure it's all right. I'm like, what the hell? And then I go through and then I thought, okay, this must have gotten screwed up in my project file somewhere. So I went in earlier to an earlier version. And no, it's still screwed up. And that's when I figured that, oh, okay, it worked well. It still worked properly with the Xvid copy. But why would that work well there, but not with the original UT codec recorded? And then I went and I remembered something that happened to me with Fraps with the Sonic Heroes episode, where it recorded it and it was properly, and it worked properly, but in Premiere, the frames were off. And I remember, what if I re-render this, and it's lossless, so I won't be losing any quality, re-encode this video file in Virtual Dub using the exact same codec, and bam, that fixed it. So it's like it recorded it, and the information was there, and it worked, but it did something that Premiere didn't like, so I had to re-encode it again. So that just threw me off. Otherwise, it would have been out yesterday. I I thought I had it, but then that just stumped me. And then for higher resolution videos, I don't usually use Fraps or, well, actually, I've started using Bandicam. Actually, yeah, the next video is going to use Bandicam in, was it HEVC GPU encoding mode. I did some more testing, and I found that shadow play on NVIDIA, it's doing something. I don't know what it is. It's not dropping frames, but it just seems to have like this micro stutter. And I can't get around that. And I did like a lot of testing, and even Bandicam isn't perfect with the HEVC encoding, but it's better with the frame pacing. I was actually noticing a little bit of frame pacing issues when I did the Need for Speed footage for Dead Game News. I was noticing it's like, oh, is that dropping frames? And I was like, no, it's not, but it still feels a little stuttery. What is it doing? So anytime somebody just has really expert advice on like recording footage and frame pacing, let me know. So somebody's saying, have you tried OBS? Yes, in the past, and it had even worse frame pacing for me. But maybe I need to move to a newer version and it works or something like that. I've never had OBS work properly with like perfect frame pacing. I don't know what it is. So, and again, somebody who's done frame pacing testing and has done color space testing. Because again, I've seen like, I looked at a top 10 of screen recorders. And so I just started testing some of those to see how they did. And one of them, I think it was called Real or something. Let's see, top screen recorders. Let's see. Because, okay, I forget the name of it. Maybe it wasn't Real, but it was a more recommended one. It just screwed up the color every time. And I was like, how? I mean, it was nice and smooth, but what's the point if I'm getting the color wrong? So, I mean, it's subtle, but it still bugs me. If there's blood in the game, you want it to look like blood and not tomato soup, you know? So, okay, I'll be there soon. Okay, my wife's knocking again. All right. Okay, so yeah, that's what happened with the video. So maybe that helps someone. Bandicam can still work, but I think I'm gonna need to re-encode the AVIs if I record it using that again. It's currently my winner, but it's not perfect. So I'd really love to see someone just stress test a bunch of recorders under different games, under different conditions, that sort of thing. So yes, frame pacing and color space accuracy. Those are the two big things I want to look at. And no drop frames. And I mean, assuming the system can handle it and you're not running like, you're not running Quantum Break at max settings on older hardware. Do you like to watch, do you like to people watch or observe people doing funny things? Seems to have a lot yeah, occasionally. Sometimes events happen that I like watching reactions to. It's pretty rare, but oh God, what was the one I think I mentioned it before that I forgot. Actually, I should just keep going. This is apparently going on too long. Just skipping some more. Just have more votes on them next time, I guess. Some of these aren't bad questions, but they're not ones I have obvious answers for. Okay, I'll answer this. What happened to Freeman Across the Universe? That was an April Fool's joke, I'm afraid. So sorry to get your hopes up. Although to my credit, I said I will be covering every first-person game. So I tried to make it a little exaggerated, so. And Gordon who escaped into the forest. Well, you tell me for that one. I hadn't thought that far ahead. I just felt like there should have been a better ending to Half-Life, so that was my alternate ending. Somebody's asking about Source Filmmaker. That's not going to help Freeman's mind. More power to you if you use Source Filmmaker. After Stranger in Need, I don't think that's going to be the answer for me. For many technical reasons. Okay, you guys can start asking questions in the chat through the @Russ broadcast. I'll try to answer a few more quickly. Well, somebody's saying, I was wondering, why don't you just hire someone to do Freeman's Mind for you, where you only do the voice and someone else records footage and writes the script? Look, one, the format of Freeman's Mind doesn't really work like that. It's kind of unique in that way. But two, I have to be damn impressed with your script to just hand that over. I could see more somebody helping me with a script, especially for just some aspects of the movie, which I'll figure out if I don't get the right help. But I'm going to be very picky about a script. I think I mentioned before, I was kind of shocked when I learned that apparently James Rolfe outsourced some of his script or maybe all his script to other people. It's like, it's not that it has to be from me. It's just that you better be a really good writer. You need to be making me laugh. So with what you're writing, and I'm picky, so that's how it is for that. And somebody asked about the GUI video. I hope to have a follow-up at some point. I'm making progress slowly, but not where I want to be yet. Okay. Was there ever a chance of a Doom Guy's Mind series? Yeah, if it had been really popular, but I might as well just... Freeman's Mind's easier on my voice. Let's see. Did you see the Hedgehog gaming mouse? I took a risk and I ordered one. I still don't like the side buttons I don't like those phone dial type side buttons. I just like simple ones. But literally everything else about the mouse I liked. And I have literally never seen another mouse that does what it does with... You have 3 top buttons, and then you have buttons on both sides. I've never seen a mouse do that. Or because all the others have a scroll wheel button for the mouse. So that means I'm always holding it like this, which isn't comfortable. So I'm taking the plunge on that, so fingers crossed. It's pricey for a mouse, but I've literally never seen another mouse do that. To have 3 top buttons, one of which isn't a scroll wheel, and buttons on both sides, because I use all my fingers on the mouse. So I'm a freak. I know it. Okay. How do you pick your thumbnails for Game Dungeon episodes? Some seem very random. The older ones were literally just me grabbing something that got screen capped on YouTube, and I should probably replace them. Lately, I just try to go with what feels like the right vibe or might make me want to click on it if I saw it. I literally figure out all of them as the video is encoding, pretty much. And then I just go through and look for screen. Well, no, except for sometimes art people have offered to help for certain episodes, and I think ahead and plan them, and then the title art looks great, and so I want to make that the cover. Like I did that for Sonic Heroes and one of the follow-ups. Yeah, that burger one for Zany Golf was awesome. Between the HEV suit and the Metroid one, if you remove the obviously impossible stuff like you're turning your body into Sonic Hedgehog, which one would you choose? The Metroid one. It could jump high or go really fast. It is a lot more abilities. Freeman... the HEV suit protects me from stuff, but what am I really doing? My lifestyle isn't such that I'm getting shot at, so the Metroid could have a lot more fun stuff to it. Are you celebrating Halloween this year? Yeah, I'll probably be... Again, my wife's on this Leon Kennedy craze, so we're going to watch one of the Resident Evil CGI movies she wants to watch. And we may have trick-or-treaters. We'll give them some candy if we do. I'll try to watch something. I'll probably try to watch something real scary afterwards that she won't want to watch. And yeah, actually, I was hoping to have some time to play some scary games, but I don't know how much time I'll have. But I was hoping to make it more of an event, but the extra game dungeon sort of caught me. Would you like your audience to create the ultimate game for you? Yeah, sure, but I have to think about what that is. I don't really want to put the pressure on them, but maybe we can talk more about like game candidates next time. Killing Time gave me some more food for thought. I liked a lot of what they did in that game. Slow Roads IO. Yeah, somebody emailed me about this. Maybe it's the same person. Is a browser game that captures some of that procedural driving game idea you had in Trackmania episode. The visuals are simple, though. It does look like driving through the English countryside. Yeah, I am interested, but I feel like we need just a little more. We need destinations, too. So we need somebody to come in there and give us some destinations that give us, there's something interesting there, and then have the procedural stuff in between, and then I think we'll have something pretty good. Favorite SPFs about hell related? I'd have to think about it. There's a new one, newish one that's, I forgot the name of. I have a copy of it. It's Hell something in the title. Oh, no. Okay, Painkiller. What? Yeah, what am I saying? It's easy answer. Anything you can say about the movie, approximate date, topic, or I screw up the timing so much. What I'm saying is I'm doing that countdown. So there's like 8 videos maximum left. And then I'm just gonna be doing months on the movie. And then I'll have a better idea where we're at that point. So that's the best I have for you at the moment. So I am giving a cutoff point, but you've seen how I am with dates if you've been watching me. Has Freeman store his ammo? Well, that's one of the things by never talking about it. It's one of those things where you have to kind of suspend the disbelief. And there's a picture, if I can find it, maybe somebody can send me a link. I meant to save a copy, where it has the Postal dude from Postal 2, and he's carrying literally every weapon you have in the game on him. And it's so over the top and ridiculous. I love it. It's like the realistic portrayal of what it would look like carrying everything he's holding in the game. Okay, so were you confused? I mentioned somewhere in the game, in the next game engine will have a good soundtrack. I screwed up the order. So yeah, well, this one ended up being okay. Had some good stuff. No, it's the next one, the one on Friday I was talking about. I screwed up the order again. Sorry. Have you ever played any D&D or similar tabletop game with a group of friends? Yeah, I have played some sessions before with some friends of mine. Okay, I think I better go. I'll go eat. I managed to deliver for Halloween a whole day early. So yeah, go watch the episode if you haven't. I apologize for the camera work, but there was no choice. Okay. See you later.